San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego, and a happy Friday to everybody out there in America's finest city. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. The hot one out there, second to last day of February. It's already 81 degrees. I have 89 today. I know Frank's somewhere upset, hoping it snows, but it's not going to snow. It feels great outside.
Somewhere upset. I'm right
somewhere
here.
Upset. Dude. Somewhere upset. That would be somewhere, would it not?
Yeah, you made it sound like I'm not here, though. It's like he's out there somewhere.
Your level of anger towards the heat is like the heat miser, yet you want to be the snow miser.
Yes.
That's where we're at with this.
Mm-hmm.
You're the third brother.
Yeah.
The one in between. You know what? Maybe we got to give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't want his natural casings to be cooked that quickly, that early in the morning. I agree with that. Braden needs to get that Italian stash going to get the 1,000 subscribers. No, we don't. Not yet. It's a beautiful day outside. I will say we had this conversation before the show started, Frank and I. If the calendar says 2 in front of today's date in terms of the month of February and it's this hot, no go. But Frank, if that said 3, like if this is on Sunday, is it more reasonable for you for it to be this warm?
No. It's got to be it's got to be closer to April. It's got to be past. It's got to be past March 15th.
That's the cutoff date.
Yes,
March 15th.
Yeah, you're getting closer to spring at that point. So, other than that, no.
I love it. I think a lot of people in San Diego are going to love the weather today and get that new sense of spring and summer vibes already. So it's going to be a fun day today. We got a lot to talk about on the show today. We're going to dive into, obviously, what has happened in Major League Baseball in terms of the Padres, what happened yesterday, what continues to happen. And for the Padres, get to the lineup later on. We will also dive into some major questions for the Padres as the opening day decisions start to loom. I know we're still early. It still has as Frank said, a 2 to start the calendar, to start the date in terms of February. We still got to get to March 26th before that, but we're going to take a dive at that. What David Morgan's progression can tell us about the Padres pitching staff and the Padres progression, we're going to get to that. We had some news on what the salary cap could potentially look like. We got San Diego FC in action this weekend. Aztecs have a very important game tomorrow as well. That game is a game that's going to be win and in kind of situation for San Diego State basketball. So we have a lot of things to discuss in the show. But I would be hard-pressed to not, and I would be taken aback if I didn't start with probably the biggest news that we got yesterday when it comes to sports here in San Diego. And I want to start this by saying San Diego, because I know it's going to get to this point. Now, maybe you might have some interests in certain ownership groups buying the team and what have you. But San Diego, it's time, just take a deep breath. I know what you're thinking. We've been here before. San Diego's been burned before. When you hear the term team for sale, you don't think opportunity, you might think exit strategy. We've seen all of those rumors out there, which we have all put to rest multiple times. You think about the Chargers picking up and moving in the middle of the night right under Dean Spanos, right under the Dean Spanos family. You think about the Clippers leaving town under Donald Sterling decades ago, and you think, here we go again. But this is different. And we've been trying to give that narrative the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months since we found out that the Padres were up for sale. And I think you're starting to realize why we were saying these things. This is different. The San Diego Padres aren't sneaking out the back door. They're about to walk through the front door with a record-setting valuation and a line of billionaires trying to get in. 5 very strong bids. And they're not from bargain hunters. No, not from relocation sharks, not from absentee landlords. They are from some heavy hitters. We're talking about ownership groups that are connected to global soccer powerhouses. We're talking about NBA champions. We're talking about deep-pocketed investors who already own winning franchises. And yes, we're talking about local ties. The Joe Cudla and Drew Brees connection, that matters. Carlsbad-based Viore. Drew Brees, who still obviously embraces San Diego. He lives here, started a family here. He started his career here. He's in the Hall of Fame and still shows up to games here at Petco Park. That's not some random hedge fund parachuting in. That's some deeper roots here in San Diego. But the bigger point is that $2.5 billion, maybe $3 billion, nobody is buying this franchise to pinch pennies. Nobody spends that kind of money to be cheap. Nobody writes that check to flip the team in 5 years or to move it to another market. This isn't the NFL model where you threaten a city for leverage. This is Major League Baseball. This is a packed Petco Park. This is top 5 attendance. This is a brand that Peter Seidler and family turned from an afterthought into a powerhouse. And that's legacy here. Peter Seidler raised the standard. He made spending normal. He made October expectations normal. He made San Diego believe this was a big market baseball town, even though it might be a small media market. You don't pay a record price for the Padres to then tear that down. You pay it because you want in on it. And the speed, that's another good sign. This process is moving fast. That means stability. That means clarity. That means this isn't some dragged out, family feud holding the franchise hostage. The legal dust is settling. The bids are strong. The league is watching. And this could be done by opening day, according to a lot of reports, or at least in the first month of the season. Think about that. Instead of the uncertainty hanging over the season, we might be walking into March 26th with a new ownership group ready to push forward. There's some legalities there, there's some paperwork that needs to be done. It's not like they're going to be controlling already, but San Diego fans, I get the skepticism. You've earned it twice, but this isn't a team looking for a stadium bailout. This isn't an owner threatening to leave. This is one of the most desirable properties in baseball with multiple billionaires competing for the right to own it. That's power. That's leverage for the city. That's proof the Padres matter. So instead of bracing for heartbreak, maybe, and just maybe, this is the time and this is the next step in the evolution. Maybe this is a new owner who sees what Seidler built and says, let's go bigger. Because the truth, every name connected to this sale has one thing in common. They win. And they want to win. These are winners. The reputations are tied to winning. Their other franchises compete at the highest level. That's the profile. It's not cheap. It's not passive. It's not relocating. It's competing. San Diego, this isn't a Chargers saga. This isn't the Clippers story. This is a franchise at its peak value, in its prime competitive window, with stars locked up and a stadium that sells out 72 nights a year. If anything, this is validation. And if this keeps moving at this pace, opening day might not just be about baseball. It might be about the beginning of something even bigger. I'm telling you, this is good news. A lot of the things that have come out from this article from Kevin Acee about the Padres sale, the 5 ownership groups that are looking to buy the team. You look at some of the details of this too. Take a deeper dive. The fact that the sale is moving quickly is interesting, but you talk about some of the known bidders. Jose Feliciano, founder of Clear Lake Capital, principal owner of Chelsea. That's a winner. Dan Friedkin, stakeholder in AS Roma, stakeholder in Everton FC, San Diego native, guy's worth $11 billion. That's a winner. Joe Lacob, principal stakeholder in the Golden State Warriors. That's a guy that has won multiple NBA championships. And now with the addition of Joe Kudla, the CEO of Viore, who's based here in Carlsbad, who's partnered with Drew Brees, who is a winner, who just recently got elected into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who's got his strong San Diego ties. His family's here. He's been living here ever since he played for the Chargers. And the fact that Kudla not only is from Encinitas, but went to the University of San Diego. These are four of the guys that are bidding for this team, and then a unknown fifth bidder that nobody knows about. But all known bidders have major sports ownership or strong regional ties. These are the things you're looking for in a new owner for the Padres. You want to talk about the valuation and financial context? I mean, the estimated sales price is north of $2.5 billion. That would surpass record of $2.4 billion that was paid for by Steve Cohen and the New York Mets back in 2020. The Padres were purchased in 2012 for $800 million by Peter Seidler and the Ron Fowler Group, including $200 million in debt assumption and included adjustments related to $1.2 billion in a local TV deal. The potential franchise value has now tripled in 14 years. We're going to take a deeper look into this later on in the hour, specifically with the Viore Group, if you will, with Drew Brees and the Viore Group looking to buy the San Diego Padres. We'll talk about that at 10:35. But when we come back, as much as we've talked about the ownership groups, there's still Padres baseball going on. What happened yesterday? What stood out? Manny Machado hit a home run and a grand slam. We'll talk more about what happened with the Padres yesterday in spring training. Talk a little on-field baseball when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number sports station, 97 through the Fan. Well, we'll have the NHL back this week, but it was a big display over at the Olympics with so many NHL players representing multiple countries, obviously coming down to the big game between Team USA and Canada, gold medal matchup, and USA winning historic gold.
Yep, absolutely. First men's Olympic gold since 1980, ending Canada's best on best dominance. Jack Hughes with the overtime 3-on-3 winner over Canada in the headline moment. Bloodied, teeth lost, perseverance exemplified. But the story of the night for the United States was for sure Connor Hellebuyck. 41 save masterpiece, one of the best Olympic goaltending performances ever, and an image on Devon Taves that is going to last forever.
Canada, surprising setbacks. Sidney Crosby likely in his final Olympics, injured for the gold medal game. Josh Morrissey absent. Roster selection debates ongoing. Teen phenom Macklin Telebrini shown, but couldn't overcome the U.S. defensive effort. Powerhouse nation showing some parity. Finland got bronze, Slovakia semifinals, Sweden a little underperforming, but overall, for Team Canada, it's a tough loss, but this isn't a miracle. This is two NHL All-Star teams competing at a high level and getting to the golden goal.
Yeah, this is two NHL powerhouses, and both these teams, we said it, with the route that they took to get to where they were, the games last week, we thought against Sweden and Czechia, we thought were going to be the toughest games, and they proved to be. We didn't think they were going to be as tough as they were, forcing both the U.S. and Canada to go into overtime, but they struggled against those teams. Now they playing each other. They also go to overtime. Also, you had the two women's teams going to overtime against each other. So, I mean, it was the perfect send-off for the Olympics this year, and one that I'm sure the Olympics was very happy that they got.
And they got the ice ready in time, too.
Yes.
That was an event that almost never happened.
Yep.
Because of the situation in Milan. Let's talk about some of the standouts and the disappointing NHL players, Frank. Let's start with some of the standout NHL players who represented their countries. No surprise that it's mostly Team USA and Team Canada players.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie McAvoy, defender for the Boston Bruins. played very, very well on defense. Quinn Hughes for the Minnesota Wild, top pairing, key playoff style performances out of him. Jack Hughes, his brother, playing for the New Jersey Devils, got the golden goal. He'll be remembered forever. Connor McDavid for the Edmonton Oilers for Team Canada, tournament MVP, Canada's leading scorer. You also had Jack Eichel, forward for the Vegas Golden Knights, complete two-way game, anchored that top line. One of the players for the Canadians who played for the, I believe that's the Slovakian team, Yuri Slavkovsky, I believe, led Slovakia to the semifinals, 7 points in 4 games. You also had Tage Thompson as well, underused but highly effective, contributed to the U.S. gold player for the Buffalo Sabres, had a very, very good tournament as well.
Let's look at some of the disappointments. No surprise with the way that Sweden disappointed that they're going to have some disappointments on this list.
Yeah, certainly. Sam Reinhart, forward for the Carolina Panthers, ineffective in limited top 6 minutes. William Nylander for Team Sweden for the Toronto Maple Leafs, needed more of him. He's one of the top paid players on the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's also one of the reasons why the Maple Leafs lost Mitch Marner, was because they had to pay William Nylander's salary. Former Anaheim Duck, current Pittsburgh Penguin, Ricard Raquel, had minimal impact for Sweden in limited time on ice. Philip Forsberg for the Nashville Predators, also very underwhelming. And Ducks goalkeeper for Czechia, Lucas Dostal, he was good, but he was just inconsistent with a .886 save percentage. Not good enough.
So now looking forward to the second half of the NHL season, we're going to get NHL hockey back later this week, but gold medalists return to the NHL with confidence. Hellebuck has got to go into the second half of the season fired up. The Hughes brothers.
I don't know how fired up he'll be playing for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the other thing too, is playing in Canada for Canadian teams when you are an American. Eichel, Larkin, McAvoy, and others could impact the playoff pushes with what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. You also got to look at momentum versus fatigue. Will Olympic success translate to the NHL, to NHL performance immediately? Some players may carry over momentum. Others might face a little bit of wear and tear. This is kind of a normal NHL break, though. You got about 4 or 5 days.
Got some new names out there when it comes to the potential buyers of the San Diego Padres franchise. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but we do want to continue the conversation about what's been going on at spring training. And again, we're in a difficult time slot to talk about Padres baseball, because we can talk about the first half of the game live, but we're also working on other things. And then the second half of the game is not during our show. So then it's kind of like a recap kind of yesterday mixed in with some other stuff. So here's what you need to know about what happened yesterday is the Padres lost to the Reds 11-10 in spring training. Take that for what it's worth. Oh, your guy Robbie Snelling's pitching for the Marlins right now, huh, Frank?
My guy?
Your guy, Robbie Snelling.
When did I miss that?
It was your week to watch Robbie Snelling this week.
Oh,
you got to look at the emails, man. Robbie Snelling pitching for the Fish. He's in a little bit of a jam to get things started. It's Kyle Schwarber now with runners on first and second, nobody out. Good luck to him. All right, talking about the Padres again. Padres lost to the Reds yesterday, 11-10. Final score in game flow: the Reds defeated the Padres late in the game. Slugfest at Goodyear Ballpark. Is that thing configured just like the Great American Bandbox? 11-10. Multiple lead changes, offensive heavy game, spring training style game, classic Cactus League chaos, lots of offense, and a lot of uneven pitching. Zach Maxwell got the win. Garrett Hawkins took the loss. Will Cannon got a save for Cincinnati. Manny Machado's kind of first loud spring debut yesterday. He collected the Padres' first 2 hits of the spring, his first 2 hits of the spring, a 2-run homer and a grand slam, both over 107 miles an hour. That's impressive. We'll take that. Briefly tied the game with both blasts. Stars showing some midseason power in February. Good to see. He's obviously trying to get locked in, Frank, for the WBC. But I know these things don't matter. But seeing Manny Machado hit home runs again, that's fun to watch. It's still fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely good news coming out of Peoria, or Goodyear in this case. But yeah, he's starting to get ramped up for the World Baseball Classic, which is starting next week. So he's trying to get rolling. He's trying to get into midseason form as quickly as he can. And we'll see how long he can maintain that before he has to come back to Padre camp.
Offensive note, Sungwoo Song got his first hit of the spring. He got a single, first start at second base. He drew a couple of walks as he tries again to progress through the velocity adjustment. Rodolfo Duran, 2 for 3, first spring training homer, competing with Luis Camposano for backup catcher role. He I don't know how much he's actually competing with Luis Camposano for the backup catcher role. Him, Blake Hunt. I mean, Chris Ello yesterday was like, I don't even know who Rodolfo Duran is. Neither did I. I didn't know who he was, except for the fact that we had to read him off the lineup. Guy went 2 for 3. The other thing that they brought up when they were talking about this in particular, as I was driving home, Frank, I don't know if you caught this on Gwen and Chris. They talked about crowning too many young guys early, which I totally agree with.
Yeah, they do that.
I mean, everybody just like, oh, he's the greatest thing that's ever happened to baseball. Why don't you let him play a little bit? And then Ello goes, what about Rodolfo Duran? Why isn't he the best catcher ever been born?
Not wrong.
Look out, Johnny Bench. Rodolfo Duran, 2 for 3 of the home run. Nick Solak continues to have a pretty good spring. He doubled off the bench. Anthony Villar doubled as a defensive replacement. A lot of bench and depth pieces made noise. And, from the offensive perspective, Frank, some of these depth guys, I mean, these are the guys that have to get out to a hot start. No surprise that they have continued to play really well, especially going against pitching that is not up to speed yet.
Yeah, you're still early days in spring training where starting pitchers, normal everyday major league starting pitchers are still trying to ramp up a little bit. So it's usually the middle couple of weeks of spring training where you start to see those guys start getting like genuine closer to real game work. That's kind of where you see the minor leaguers and major leaguers start to separate themselves from the pack. It's not really this week. It'll be more next week and the week after that.
Yeah, when you start seeing more pitches that are built up and everything like that. I mean, Nick Pivetta had his first spring start. Not as crisp as Michael King. But again, Nick Pivetta has not pitched since October. He went 2 innings, gave up 3 earned runs on 3 hits, 2 walks, and a strikeout. All damage came in the second inning. He escaped that first inning after Ellie De La Cruz hit a triple. But then after that, it was, I just thought Pivetta looked a little wild yesterday. With a couple of walks, they ended up biting him on a bad pitch. I mean, he's working on things, trying to locate. It's, again, he hasn't pitched in however many months it is. And we talked about that with JP Sears, talked about that with some of these other guys. The first start you get, it's cool if they go out there and dominate early, but it's going to take a little bit of time. Nick Pivetta, obviously, working on a lot of stuff. Only went 2 innings yesterday. I think the biggest thing that you would look at with the walks, but that's, again, something that he will get locked in on early in spring. You got clean innings from David Morgan, Randy Peralta, and Ryan Auck. Some prospects protected from the Rule 5 draft that pitched. Miguel Mendez, he gave up 4 earned runs in 2/3 of an inning. Garrett Hawkins ended up giving up his first earned run of spring training. He did have 2 strikeouts. Frontline arms pretty steady. Depth arms a little shaky, but overall, pitching staff did okay in a game that they ended up giving up 11 runs. So, there's only so much you could pull out of it. I will say Wandy Peralta has had a couple of good outings so far in spring training as he gets ready to go for the World Baseball Classic. And I know a lot of fans were disgruntled with Wandy Peralta last year, Frank, but Wandy Peralta, when you look at the overall statistics of how he played, aside from like 2 outings, he had a really good year last year for the Padres and a pretty steady left-handed arm for them to use.
It was mainly that outing at Yankee Stadium was his really bad outing where he was forced to eat it on a night where the Padres kind of gave up, which happens over the course of the season. But he has been very, very good and very silently good as well. He's one of those lefty, reliable arms that you have in that bullpen, and he's starting to really show
that he's worth the amount of money that you paid him, as silently as it may be, and how fans want to really highlight his bad days. He's had a heck of a lot more good days than he's had bad.
Yeah, and he's a guy too that when you look at his makeup and you're not paying him to be a back end pitcher. You're paying him to be a middle relief guy, maybe a lefty specialist. You only have a couple of lefty arms in that bullpen, and one of them, you don't know if he's going to start on the opening day roster or not with Yuki Matsui because of an injury. So you're really going to have to lean on Wandy Peralta, I think, early in the season. He's off to a pretty good start to spring training, and he will be pitching for the Dominican Republic here next week as a lot of the players start departing for the WBC rosters. In terms of the ABS challenges yesterday, ABS challengers yesterday were 1 for 5. Fernando Tatis Jr. challenged a first pitch strike. That was upheld. Reds catcher Will Banfield lost a challenge on a ball call. Tatis drew a couple of walks in the game yesterday. Early glimpse of how the ABS impacts at bats, but 1 for 5 from the challengers yesterday. Is this going to be a recurring theme throughout the season? We're going to be constantly talking about the ABS system.
Yeah, I think especially early on, I think more as it becomes more and more normal, I think it's not going to be talked about as much, but during the beginning part of the season, yes, expect over exaggeration and expect over analysis of those ABS numbers.
It's come to a point too that with the ABS system, it's come to a point too that when you look at, it's come to a point that Baseball Savant has even added it to their website for a stat. See how catchers and pitchers do via challenges for some of this stuff. We'll talk about that as spring training goes on. The big picture from yesterday, though, Machado already in midseason form. Nick Pivetta shaking the rust off. Catcher battle definitely worth watching. ABS system influencing game flow. Prospects are fighting for depth roles, and the spring scoreboard doesn't really matter. Some of the trends do. So we'll see if anybody in the catching competition, Rodolfo Duran or Blake Hunt, challenge Luis Camposano too much. They're going to try, obviously, to get there with their performances in some of these games. But today we got a pretty good lineup. We're going to get to that later on in the broadcast of how it was constructed. But when looking at the lineup today, you got a pretty close look to a everyday lineup for the Padres today, as called in by Craig Stammen. Xander Bogaerts, Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jake Cronenworth, Miguel Andujar, Ramon Laureano, Sungmoon Song, Luis Camposano, the starting 9 today for the San Diego Padres. Randy Vasquez gets the second start today of spring. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But a deeper dive into who some of the bidders are for the Padres. Kudla and Breeze lead a local connection bid. What does that mean? What's the Joe Kudla, founder of and CEO of Viore? What kind of group does he bring in to potentially bid for the Padres? We'll get to that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number one sports station, 97 through the Fan. San Diego Torero fans, time for your weekly University of San Diego Toreros update covering baseball, men's basketball, softball. Toreros have been making waves this past week, and there's plenty to break down heading into this next week of games. For baseball, this is the big program for USD on the men's side. They're riding a 5-game winning streak, now highlighted by a Tony Gwynn Legacy Tournament sweep. They look dominant in local competition. Sophomore CJ Moran, transfer from San Diego State, has been unstoppable this weekend. He got off to a slow start. He led the Aztecs in hitting last year, comes over to USD, off to a slow start. He was hitting under 200, but had a 450 on base percentage. That told you everything you needed to know about whether or not CJ Moran was going to turn it up or not. Multi-hit games in back-to-back contests, 4 RBIs in consecutive games. Oh, and by the way, his first Toreros home run against his former team, the San Diego State Aztecs, on Sunday night. Hit that ball into the Toreros bullpen in front of Raggers Rail at Tony Gwynn Stadium. Not bad. CJ Moran, you are a Torero.
Yep, absolutely. And fitting right in. And this whole Torero offense has been very, very good especially over the Tony Gwynn tournament. 15 runs in consecutive games, 10 walks, 8 stolen bags, most since 2022, 2025. scoring in bunches, controlling the middle innings, and manufacturing runs, even when hits were scarce. This was a very, very dangerous team throughout the entirety of the Tony Gwynn tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the offense has been legit. They outscored their opponents 30 to, what was that, 9? 30 to 9 in 2 games.
Between Creighton and San Diego State.
Andrew Ganas looked pretty good as a transfer from CSUN, who went to Patrick Henry High School, another local kid, back playing for the Toreros. He had 3 hits and 4 RBIs against the Aztecs. Tanner Kern has contributed. Tanner Kern, I tell you, Tanner Kern has leaned into too many pitches. Because he's getting hit. He's been hit a lot of times. He was hit a lot of times this past weekend, and 2 of them almost went to review. He got away with the flipper out there. So yeah, Tanner's got to be a little concerned. He's got to be a little bit more cautious about that.
He's a freshman.
And
he's learning.
Sticking his elbow pad into the strike zone to get hit by a pitch. Drake Fries earned his first win of the season. 5 strong innings, bullpen cleanly closed games. And for Drake Fries, made a start against Charlotte. It was his first appearance in 20 months. Because of Tommy John surgery. He had a very interesting story, and he's back in his second start, did really well. He gave up the 3 runs, only in 1 inning, but really settled in, got his first win of the season. Good to see Drake Fries back.
Yep. Congratulations to him. And you will have the call for the next game, which will be tomorrow as we're recording this on Monday, against UC San Diego.
Yeah, the game will be on ESPN Plus. I will not be doing that. Ted Mendenhall usually does the ESPN Plus version. I will be on USDToreros.com tomorrow on Tuesday. So it should be a fun time. Men's basketball. Senior day was over the weekend. USD fell to LMU 77-65 in their final home game and senior day. They celebrated 7 Torero seniors, including Tenari Lane and Adrian McIntyre. Despite a late comeback, LMU shooting efficiency, especially from 3-point range, proved too much. And they jumped out to the same lead that they had last time. Now, LMU, the last time these guys played, outscored the Toreros 17-0 to get the game started, led to a 29-7 start. This time, 21-7. This time it was 21-9 at a break. It's same start. LMU shot the lights out. At one point, they're shooting 80% with 10 minutes to go in the first half. It's tough to overcome that, but back-to-back overtime games for the first time in team history. A couple of games ago, they had record-setting 15 3-pointers this year over Washington State. Grad guards consistently led scoring in key games. To kind of talk about some of the season highlights for a team that will now be without their head coach, because they're going in a different direction, Frank.
Yeah, we got that news late last week that Steve Lavin was not going to be back with the team going into next year. For the Toreros right now, you got 2 games left on the season. You've got the Oregon Beavers coming up on Wednesday, and then you're closing the season against Portland on Saturday night. Both of those games are going to be on the road.
Yeah, Oregon State. And these are teams, again, here's the thing. USD basketball, as poor as they have played the last couple of games, could still play for a first-round bye in the West Coast Conference Tournament with a couple of good games. We'll see what happens. Steve Lavin is still. All guests on 97 through the Fan. Join us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not big bank banking. It's better. Greg Hills will join us on that SDCCU Fan Hotline later on in the show to talk a little San Diego FC to finish up the program today here in the first hour of the Braden Surprenant show. Obviously, the biggest talking point with the Padres, aside from like what they've been doing on the field, has been the ownership conversation. Now, we did get the report 5 minutes ago. As we went to break, Dennis Lin had tweeted out that the Kudla and Breeze group did not put in a formal bid for the Padres yet. So they are pursuing an opportunity, but they have not actually put in a formal bid. So here's the exact tweet from Dennis Lin. Correction regarding the Padres sale process. Sources clarify that Joe Kudla and Drew Brees did not submit a formal bid. They are, however, exploring potentially partnering with one of the other groups. That's interesting. So for everybody that was like, oh, well, Drew Brees and Viore, like they're not going to have enough money. Well, they might be partnering with one of the other groups that have been listed. So who knows how this breaks down now. We will wait for more information on that. But let's just kind of give an overview of what we know as bidders, known and potential bidders. The San Diego Padres obviously are in the midst of a potential record-setting sale with strong interest from multiple high-profile bidders. The process is moving quickly and could conclude by MLB opening day, and the team could surpass the 2020 MLB record sale of $2.42 billion, with valuations estimated between $2.5 billion and $3 billion. That is all information, Frank, that we know, right? This is all the information that we have been told over a couple of months now.
Yes, it's going to take a record-setting. It's going to take a record-setting bid in order to buy this team.
The known and potential bidders. We have seen a lot of different names for this. Joe Lacob was one of the first that we have seen, right? He was the first one that has popped up in any type of article. He is a Bay Area resident. Just to recap, owner of the Golden State Warriors. He has previously attempted to buy other Major League Baseball teams, the A's, the Angels, the Dodgers. He is known for success-oriented ownership. That's Joe Lacob. He's worth about $3 billion. If you Google search his name, that's what they say. Take that for what it's worth. Another known bidder that came out after the Lacob situation, or at least when we found out about Lacob, was Dan Friedkin. Dan Friedkin is a San Diego native. He is the CEO of the Friedkin Group, and he's the principal owner of Serie A's AS Roma and the Premier League club Everton. Let me ask this question, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the soccer perspective, are those circus organizations?
No. Roma's been solid. Everton has had its struggles recently. They've just built a new stadium that I believe is debuting next year, I believe. And they are in a UEFA position. I believe. I'm not sure. I don't remember if it's Conference League or Europa League, but they are in a UEFA position this year.
To put it briefly, they're not the Arizona Cardinals of Serie A.
No.
They are not the Cincinnati Bengals of the Premier League.
They had been, but that's changing.
Maybe that's because he bought the team.
Possibly.
I don't know. I got to go through the data on that. So that's another one. He is also, I can't remember if it's his grandson or great-grandson of the CEO and founder of PSA Airlines. Was it Pacific Southwest, PSA? The PSA airline, whatever.
Believe so. I'm not sure.
They used to be stationed here in here in San Diego.
Mm.
Yeah, so he is the descendant of whoever started that company. I think I'm pretty certain on that. Jose E. Feliciano, Puerto Rico native, founding partner of Clear Lake Capital, and a co-owner of Chelsea FC. Previously partnered with Todd Bowie in soccer ownership. But the interesting thing with Feliciano is, who else is a co-owner of Chelsea FC?
I don't know.
The owners of the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So that's an interesting storyline in itself. I know there had been rumors of, and I don't know, maybe you know, Frank, but like I heard like the ownership groups with Chelsea FC had been butting heads a little bit.
Yes, that has been the rumor. By the way, going back to Everton really quick, they have not finished above the top 10 in the Premier League since 2018, 2019. This year, after I believe the changes after this year, they are currently sitting in ninth in the Premier League. They still have about 10 games left to go, 10, 11 matches left to go, but they've surpassed what they have been recently.
Here is the they just had an Everton deal. Everton owner Dan Friedkin has made his position clear regarding a potential summer sale of Ndai to Manchester United. Who is that? Is that like their best player or something?
One of their better ones, yeah.
After several years spent offloading key players to stay within Premier League financial rules, Everton finally appeared to be on the more stable ground. Ndai is drawing attention from Man U after another impressive campaign. Backed by the Friedkin Group, the Toffees are no longer under pressure to make sales and can be more selective in their transfer dealings. Interesting. And when it comes to his future at Goodison Park, Friedkin seems prepared to draw a line. So here's what you need to know about Friedkin. Sounds like he came in to buy Everton, and they have now more financial stabling, and now he's putting his foot down saying you can't trade one of our best players. Am I reading that wrong?
I think that's something that
That's something Padre fans are worried about. Is that not?
About having a guy trade away their best players?
Yeah, about somebody just starting to sell people off as a new owner and then just, completely sending the team into shambles. Doesn't sound like that's going to happen with Dan Friedkin now, does it?
No, it doesn't. Here's the thing with Dan Friedkin, too.
To the chagrin of Harold Reynolds, I'm sure.
He must have. I don't know when they bought the team, but the Friedkin Group wrote this to Evertonians. Is that the proper pronunciation for Everton fans? Evertonians?
Sure. I'm a Chelsea supporter, so I don't care.
Okay. Well, you're going to learn a little bit about Everton here. Following the completion of the takeover of Everton Football Club, I want to express my gratitude for your continued support and introduce the incoming executive chairman of Everton, Mark Watts. Take immense pride in welcoming one of England's most historical football clubs to our global family. Yada, yada. Friedkin Group is a diverse family of companies with a global footprint spanning industries such as sports, automotive, entertainment, hospitality, and adventure. Across all our endeavors, we strive to deliver extraordinary experiences that ignite people's passions. We are thrilled to bring this ethos to Everton and the Liverpool City region.
Friedkin bought Everton on December 19th of 2024.
All right, so they're just...
What you're seeing out of Everton right now is the beginning of his stuff. You can't really take last year and the year before that into account because he's still trying to figure out what he wants to implement. He's starting to implement his way of doing things now.
And now you're saying that they're close. They're competing for a...
They are better off in the Prem than they have been in recent years, yes.
All right. Let's before he took over, they were not very good.
They finished 13th in 24-25, 15th in 23-24. They were on the cusp of relegation in 22-23 and 21-22. They finished 10th in 2020-21, and then 19-20 they were 12th. But before that, they had a run of 2 8th place finishes and a 7th.
Is this somewhat the best that they have done in the last 10 years?
Yes.
Okay.
They're on the cusp of being as good or better than they have been over the last 10 years, yes.
Okay, so the Friedkin Group, Dan Friedkin bought Everton, stabilized the money, and now is saying, you're not selling my best player. He's staying here. That sounds like you know what? That sounds like somebody that's going to buy a team to win. Does it not?
Yeah.
I think that sounds like somebody that wants to win. He's not just buying teams just to buy teams. I bet you AS Roma's probably pretty good right now. Are they okay? When did he buy them? I mean, that's another question. Something else we'll dive into later. But Friedkin's a guy that's a San Diego native that let's put it this way. He was born in San Diego. He lives in Texas now. But if he was born in San Diego, and this is his hometown, and he is doing this for Everton, what do you think he's going to do for his own hometown team? I'm just saying. And this guy's worth like $10 billion. Whatever it is. I think it's around $10 billion on those reports. Feliciano, as we mentioned, and you're a Chelsea fan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they've had some headbutting. His thing's interesting, too, with the buying a team. He's co-owners of Chelsea with the Dodgers owners.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's interested in buying the Padres, who is their biggest rival. That's interesting to me. That's interesting to me.
It's hilarious.
It is hilarious. I find that interesting. So those are the three that have put in bids according to these reports, if I'm reading this correctly.
Correct.
Then yesterday you had the Joe Cudla and Drew Brees connection. And, Cudla, Carlsbad-based Fiore CEO, Drew Brees obviously started his NFL Hall of Fame career with the San Diego Chargers. They both live here in town. Drew is a big investor of Viore too. So like they've had that partnership for a while. And they're exploring joining a bid in the next round, but did not submit a formal bid in the first round. So I'm interested to see who they might join up with. I mean, if they join up with like Friedkin or something like that, Frank, and you got an all San Diego connection that's got a lot of money and that are from here and live here and have roots here, that to me is a pretty solid group in terms of what Peter Seidler's looking for, or what the Seidler family's looking for, right? I mean, the Seidler family was saying that they want to have somebody that's going to live on and continue Peter Seidler's legacy and all this other stuff. That to me would be the group that fits it off the top without doing any research. And obviously these guys are deep in negotiations. They got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, so I understand that. And then we have a fifth bidder, which might be a fourth bidder now, because if Kudla and Breeze are not have not submitted a formal bid and they're trying to join one of these bids, maybe it's just four bidders then. But identity is unknown, and it's it's described as a very strong bid. So maybe they're part of that group. Who knows? Financial and market context of this. Padres valuations are supported by record attendance, 3.4 million people going to games in 2025, 72 sellouts. Petco Park is considered one of baseball's premier stadiums, and MLB may face a potential lockout in 2027, but the Padres remain a prime asset due to scarcity of franchises and rising global interest in the game of baseball. Seidler family collectively owns less than 50%. The trust is controlled by Peter Seidler's widow and kids and is the largest single stake. Sale process has accelerated after resolving legal disputes among the Seidler family members. John Seidler is committed to keeping the team in San Diego post-sale, which we knew. No indication of relocation, which we knew. Buyers are being vetted for alignment with winning long-term investment in the franchise. Sale interest is high. Cuda and Breeze, local tie, significant for fan engagement, but they're, again, trying to join one of the groups already making a bid. All likely buyers are aligned with winning and sustaining the team in San Diego, which is very much a contrast with the Chargers and the Clippers and the Rockets and other organizations that have now bolted from San Diego. But a potential record-breaking sale highlights the Padres' growing value and the stature at MLB. And this is all great. This is all great news, Frank. These are all things that I think point in the direction of a new ownership group that's not taking it over to hold on to for 5 years and then sell, but an ownership group that wants to make a splash.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is exactly what we had said when we were fending off these stupid relocation allegations, was that you're not going to spend this much money and turn into John Fisher. You're not going to spend this much money and turn into the Pittsburgh Pirates. You are going to buy this team to win. It's such an extraordinary way that this team is being sold. It's such an extraordinary reason as to why this team is being sold. It's not like the owners are trying to get out of it because they want the money and they don't care. They're buying it because the guy who owned it and cared about it the most passed away, and the current owners realize that they're not going to be able to put in the same amount of love and effort that Peter did, which is great. And they're deciding to sell the team, which is great. You now have this sale. You expect this sale, honestly, to go quickly because of the state of the Padres as it sits right now. They don't need a building. They're not fighting with the city. They're not under crippling amounts of debt. The fan base isn't revolting against them. That's all good news. If this sale takes forever, it's because the Seidler family has not found the right person to sell. It's not going to be because of a lack of bidders.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously that people are bidding on this organization not to flip it and not to tear it down. That it's a valuable asset that you have I mean, when you see teams that go for sale, I don't know how many times we have to do this exercise, but let's talk about teams that go on for sale all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teams that are always for sale usually have a problem. That's why the owner doesn't want them anymore.
Yep.
This is an extenuating circumstance because the owner that had the passion for the team passed away.
Yep.
And the family doesn't want to hold on to an asset that they don't have the same passion for, and they want what their brother wanted for this team to have that success, and they're willing to sell to order to make that happen.
Which is a great sign for this team because there are many people that are looking for as much money as they possibly can, would hold on to it, be damned the results of what this team turns into, and try to flip it for as big a profit as they possibly can. They are realizing early in this process, that they do not have the will or whatever it is that they need in order to do what is needed for this city, for this team. So they're backing out of it, which is a great, great sign. That's a fantastic sign. It just shows that they have the best intentions for the team and for the city at heart and not their own wallets.
And I think that, and you start looking at a lot of the previous sales, right? And they're selling the team again because they're not making the money they want to make. It's costing them too much. They want to just collect the money on the profit, if you will, collect it on the value, and then they want to and then they just want out.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, when the new owners usually buy those teams, what do they have to do? They have to find why it's not making money and start making changes so it makes money. This is an organization that, the debt is one thing that they had, and it sounded like they have secured a little bit, but that's just like overspending on a lot of the players. It's not like they don't have people showing up. I mean, again, Another big reason teams sell is because nobody shows up, because they've run it into the ground. That's not the case with the Padres. So in terms of organization, like if you're a billionaire and you want to get into owning a sports team, there is no better choice than a sports team that makes money, that wins games, that has a good roster. Oh, and by the way, that sells out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are usually not for sale. Why? Because they're so valuable. Why would you ever sell it? Okay, so from that perspective, it's only bringing in people that want to win. And as you start to look at what these organizations, that these the guys that have put bids in, the organizations that they run, have you noticed that out of the bidders do any of them not own a sports team?
No,
they all own a sports team. The only one that doesn't
is the Breeze
Cutta group, but that group is not putting in a formal bid. They're trying to join another group out there. They're willing to put some shares in to be part owners of the Padres. So now you're looking at just the top three. We don't know about the anonymous one, right? They all own other franchises. They own franchises that have won championships, or in Friedkin's sense, he's still a relatively new owner, but everything that we just read about Dan Friedkin and the Friedkin Group, he wants to win.
Mm-hmm.
Based on like, hey, I know Everton, I know our best guy, might be valuable to get rid of. He's staying. We're not letting this guy leave. We'll spend the money to keep him. And it sounds like, as that article said, the stability that the Friedkin Group gave Everton has solidified the roster. And look at the results. They're starting to play a lot better over there in Europe. So when you look at the owners and the people that have put in bids, they have all come from winning. And they are teams that win. And they are people that win. These are people that don't hog stuff and just hold on at. These are people that want to win when they run their team. And they all have connections to being a owner that's going to spend money. And then when you start throwing in the local aspect, especially with like Friedkin and who knows with Breeze and Kudla and stuff like that, you look at that part and what these guys are doing for teams that are not in their city. I'm telling you, this is a good group right here that they get to choose from, and it sounds like the first line of bidding is done. Time to go through the second round of vetting process, and the fact that they think that this thing could get done before opening day or just after opening day is crazy to me, but that's how popular this team is.
Mhm.
That's how important it is to a lot of bidders. That's how expensive this team is. That's how valuable this team is. And that's a big sign that this team is going to get an ownership that's going to want to win. And guess what? And guess what new owners always try to do? What do they always try to do? Win over the fan base. And how do you win over a fan base that's already showing up and already locked into Padres baseball? You know what you do?
Big names, big numbers.
You spend money on top of it. That's why when the Nationals tried to sell, they wanted to make sure that the sale, or should I say the trade of Juan Soto, happened before they sold the team, so the new owners didn't look like whatever you want to call them. I've been excited to see how this plays out. I think the names that are listed are really good names to be a potential owner of the Padres. But they have some on-field questions they have to answer. What are the big questions lingering for opening day? We'll talk about that when we come back. Broadcasting live at the Bill House Studios, we know how. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Talking a lot of going on with Padres baseball in terms of ownership, maybe new ownership of the Padres. It sounds like the first round of bidding has been completed, and they're going to get into the second round of bidding later on. And it sounds like this thing is moving very quickly. We went through a lot of the ownership groups in the last segment. If you missed any of it, you can rewind on YouTube. You can also rewind on the Odyssey app. We really appreciate you guys helping us out. And on YouTube right now, again, as I mentioned before, we are broadcasting live on a couple of different YouTube pages. We are on the 97 Through the Fan YouTube page, which you can follow at 97 Through the Fan on YouTube. Got a handful of people in there. Give us a like if you haven't done so already. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, so we really appreciate that. If you haven't done so already, please follow us on all social media platforms. You can follow us at B_SURP. You can follow Frank Marchese, F Marks 324 on social media, as well as our 97 Through the Fan accounts at 97 Through the Fan SD. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our YouTube pages, 97 Through the Fan, trying to get close to 10,000 subscribers. Braden Surprenant Show, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're up there. We've passed the 800 mark. We're getting closer, guys. It's super simple to do. And there's a couple of ways you could do it. If you're watching right now on 97 Through the Fan's YouTube page, in the description below, there are all the links to our social media accounts that you can follow us or like whatever it is. I don't know. Every account, every website's got their own thing. But the top link is youtube.com/@B_SURP. And that is a link to our Braden Surprenant Show page that we post a lot of additional content. A lot of the commercial breaks that you see only on YouTube are posted in video form. So if you missed any of it, you can go out there and put that. You can go on to YouTube and rewatch those. We do updates every single week on the San Diego Gulls, San Diego FC, all 3 local Division I schools in town with UCSD, USD, and San Diego State. We also do updates on the NHL, the NBA, the NFL during their seasons. A lot of different stuff on there that you can check out. A lot of great content. We post some extra Padres content on there also. And that's on our Braden Surprenant Show YouTube page, youtube.com/@B_SURP. Again, as Fridge Watcher puts out there, and I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it. It makes it so much easier if you subscribe. It's free to subscribe. You hit the subscribe button, doesn't cost you anything. And as Fridge Watcher says, when you subscribe, it makes it way easier to find the shows that you're looking for. You can find it on 97 Through the Fan. You can find it on the Braden Surprenant Show page. It is a lot easier to do. So if you watch us or you want to throw us on a smart TV while you're working, while you're doing stuff around the house, I know a lot of people that do that. Put us on your fridge like Fridge Watcher does. He's actually posted a photo of us on his fridge, on his smart fridge. You can do that. And again, it's easier. It will populate on your YouTube algorithm if you subscribe to us. It makes things a lot easier. The other way that you can access our YouTube page, if you're on 97 Through the Fans page, which is youtube.com/@973, the numbers, and then the fan, it pulls up to our main page. And as you scroll down a little bit, not too far, you select our shows and you can subscribe to every one of our shows. It's right there, easy to do. Ben and Woods have just reached the 9,000 subscriber mark. You're trying to get to 10,000, obviously. We are now at 806 subscribers. We really appreciate you guys for doing that. Gwen and Chris, you can subscribe to. Easy click of the button. Sam Levitt, you can subscribe to. Matt Scraby, you can subscribe to. I mean, that's all right there on youtube.com/@97 Through the Fan.
Do I give, you know what? How about this?
Oh, no.
Death by Palm Tree. I see you in the chat. I see what you're posting. If you go on and you subscribe to Braden's YouTube right now and become a member,
This seems bad.
I will stand up.
He will unleash
if you become a member,
the natty casings.
I will, yeah.
A member or subscribe?
Oh, both.
Both. Wow.
I'm sorry, you can't it's you gotta pay for the legs. You got to pay for the natural casings, dude.
What is happening on the what is going on with this? What I don't even want to discuss further. I can't believe All right.
Times is tough out there, man.
Yeah, you know what? It is. Times are tough. I tell you that. It's tough sledding a lot. I can't believe it. Ain't no way he's got shorts on. Well, only one way to find out, I guess, for anybody watching on YouTube. Again, do you want to see the natural casings? Subscribe to the YouTube page at @B_SURP. All right. Let's talk about the Padres before Frank starts making before Frank bans us from YouTube. Got a little uncomfortable in here. Some burning questions for opening day. There's some opening day decisions that loom for the Padres. It's the rotation, top of the lineup. It's the first base DH battle. It's the bullpen construction. It's a lot of that going on. I want to add another wrinkle to this and a couple different things. And before we dive into some of these big questions for the Padres and for the Padres baseball going into spring training, I do want to hear from Skipper Craig Stammen. I've been distracted by the natural casings here. Craig Stammen on a couple of different clips. Okay. So I want to talk about, we talked about Sungwoon Song yesterday in terms of like somewhat a bench piece, and this is going to lead into the next one. This one's a little bit longer of a clip, but Craig Stammen talked about how Sungwoon Song will be used while other players are away for the WBC and the competition for the final roster spot. Before we talk about the major questions of the Padres, we kind of have to hear from Craig Stammen himself on how he views certain situations. So here's Craig Stammen talking about Sungwoon Song and how he will be used while other players are away for the WBC and what that competition is like for the final roster spot for the position players.
Someone got his first hit yesterday.
Yeah.
It seems like he might get some kind of more opportunity to move around the diamond with some guys going to the WBC. What do you anticipate over the next couple weeks while those guys aren't here?
Yeah, we'll get a good look at him as we have already this spring, and I think he's past his injury stuff, so it was just good to see him, hit a line drive and it fall through. He had a nice little line drive the other day. It got caught, but I know he feels like a weight off his shoulders that he got his first hit, and that he can just go play baseball now.
You mentioned, I think, once or twice shortstop for him. Is that somewhere we could see him?
Yeah, we might stick him over there and see what it looks like, at least in practice, and then, maybe bring it to a game. But, he'll be moving around a little bit more. Probably see him in the outfield. See about first base. We got a lot of first basemen, so we'll see if, we just got to get him on the practice field doing those things, and then we can put him in the game.
In the outfield, has he done that?
We haven't done any of that yet. We're just trying to get him, a little bit further past the injury and just make sure he's in good shape and feeling good and feeling comfortable around here, and then we'll try new things.
What other opportunities do you envision for some of these other guys with some of your big names going to – aside, you've mentioned like guys stepping up into leadership roles, but just in terms of playing time and getting at-bats against good pitching, do you see that for some of these guys?
Just less people here. So, those guys are going to get a chance to play that, are maybe coming in the second half of the game. They're going to get a few more starts, and we're going to move people around to different positions and try new things. And I think we've got to take advantage of this opportunity with different players and see how versatile they really are. And, maybe we find something out this spring training while these guys are gone that we're like, man, we can take this as a season and use this guy in a special way.
You're going to be away this weekend, is that right?
Yes. My sister's getting married tomorrow, so dress rehearsal tonight, wedding tomorrow. I'll be back on Sunday.
Will Ruben be acting?
Randy will be the manager. Ruben will still be the pitching coach. That's kind of how it's going to go through the season, because if I get ejected and then Randy gets ejected, we still need a pitching coach. So we don't need to have Fritz running in from the bullpen. So Ruben's kind of our lone survivor, last survivor. We got to keep him alive.
Do you have pointers for them this weekend?
No, they'll be just fine.
Hey, Craig, when you look at, I guess there's a scenario with Andujar getting signed, Castellanos coming in, where maybe you're looking at sort of one final bench spot and a lot of guys that have different skill sets that can fit that spot. At this point, what do you feel like you guys will value for maybe like a final bench spot? Is it, more outfield, infield, things like that?
Yeah, I don't exactly know at this point. It's still really early. It's not even March yet. So we got to see how it shakes out, see how spring training shakes out. It's always a lot of different things that happen and different equations. But, I think when you're looking at a bench, I've always said you want somebody off the bench that's going to scare an opposing pitcher. If you want to pinch hit him, and then you need guys that can do special things, be puzzle pieces, can play different positions, can steal a base, can, be very strategic defensively, to improve our defense at the end of the game. So, we'll weigh all those attributes and figure out who's best for those spots.
We don't know your policy yet on opening day starter announcements. When could that be a thing? Is the guy you threw yesterday and got to look at yesterday an option? And kind of
there's probably, we have a couple guys that are options. We'll see when that. I haven't even thought about who the opening day starter is. We're just trying to get him through spring healthy, and then we'll decide who that guy is on opening day. But I do know it's a special day. It's a special honor for somebody to be the opening day starter, especially at Petco Park and how they do opening day festivities. So it'll be exciting, whoever that is. And, they're competing, slightly for that spot, which it'll be fun to see who comes out and gets that opening day nod.
You were remiss if I didn't ask that in February at least once.
It's all good. TBD is right now. He's pretty good.
All right, a lot to unpack with the Craig Stammen stuff, but you know what, Frank? He talks about a lot of things that involve the question marks going into the season, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of those question marks. The bench. He said something specifically about the bench that might open up the door for a couple of different players. Now, we're going to dive into that when we come back. Plus, Dennis Lin has additional context on the ownership conversation and the bids that were put out. We'll update you on that as well as we go to break. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Summer Sports Station 97 to the Fan. Time for another update on the Aztecs here on a Monday, as we will take a look at what happened with men's basketball, with baseball, softball, and women's basketball. And, of course, got to start with the men's basketball program. We talked a lot about it on the show earlier in the week, but Aztecs fell to Colorado State 83-74 in Fort Collins. They snapped a strong road performance streak. Key takeaway, Aztecs press defense struggled early. Colorado State's 13 three-pointers and 29 free throws were too much to overcome. Bench continued to shine. They outscored Colorado State's bench 27-8. The 22nd time this season, the Aztecs bench has outscored the opponent. But the problem was losing on the road to Colorado State. Mark Ziegler had in his article about where the team is right now, with ongoing conversations about where they're going to play next year and everything like that. A lot of distractions for a team that saw their chances of making it as an at-large bid go from 65% to now 27%, as according to the latest metrics.
Yeah, this was truly a devastating loss for San Diego State as far as the championship window is concerned for them. I mean, they have to win the conference tournament now. There's really no other way in. But in order to even consider winning the championship, the conference tournament, you have to really buckle down against Utah State later this week. And then you've got Boise State, you've got New Mexico as well. I mean, that is a rough go of it you've put yourself in.
They're still on the bubble, but they're on the bubble out. Their resume is now out of the top 50, which is not great in terms of making the tournament as an at-large. We said 2-1 against those next three opponents, and you got a good chance. That was assuming that you beat Colorado State and take care of business against Grand Canyon. Now you got to go a perfect 3-0 against Boise State, New Mexico on the road. They're both quad one games, and then at home against Utah State, also a quad one game. The tournament committee looks at quad one wins, and the Aztecs right now have one, and they need more than that if they want to make the NCAA tournament outright. Otherwise, they're going to have to get hot in Vegas. Now, the good news is for the Aztecs in terms of trying to win the regular season outright, they still could do that. Utah State lost over the weekend. So you're getting a Utah State team that lost over the weekend, limping in here to Viejas Arena. You really got to bring your A game against the Aggies if you want to even consider being in that position, as well as trying to win a share of the Mountain West Conference at the end of the regular season. But this is an Aztec formula that has been strong defensively and bench scoring, but they have now lost back-to-back games, and that rarely happens under Coach Dutcher. So hopefully they can bounce back and beat Utah State on Wednesday. Now, men's baseball, early season highlights. Rohan Littau named Mountain West Pitcher of the Week after a 3-0 shutout against BYU on Friday. Struck out 10. Aztecs did stumble in the Tony Gwynn legacy against USD. They lost 15-4 after the Toreros got off to a hot start. And they got an upcoming challenge. I mean, they got to go up to UCLA on Tuesday, number 1 of the country. And then they will go up to the Pacific Northwest to take on Washington. Tough weekend for the Aztecs. They did beat BYU, had a tough time against Utah, and then USD really exposed the lack of pitching depth for the Aztecs.
Yeah, I think it was 11-0 in like the second inning or so.
11-0 after 2.5 innings.
Yeah, so USD really put it on them in that last game. But for San Diego State, new head coach, we're trying to figure out different ways of doing things. We're trying to find our standing, as it were, not just with the Mountain West, but with ourselves as well. So it's, you can kind of see the iffy start in there, but there's still a lot of time left in this baseball season.
They handled Long Island pretty easily, and then they ran into some tough competition. Irvine on a Tuesday, they're one of the best teams in Southern California to play in this Tony Gwynn Legacy tournament. Obviously, beating BYU was good out of the Power Four. Losing to Utah was tough because I watched that Utah team play in person, and they're not very good. But the thing is with Kevin Vance, he's a pitching guy, and he runs the pitching staff. And the biggest problem that the Aztecs had against USD was just throwing strikes. I mean, that's an it's not easy to fix sometimes, but it's a fixable problem. They had good stuff. They couldn't throw strikes. 12 free passes in the first 3 innings issued by Aztec pitching. And that is 9 walks and 3 hit batsmen, led to 11 runs. I mean, the Toreros got 11 runs on 5 hits. It's not even like they were just racking up the hits. They were being pesky in the box, and they weren't going to swing at crap. And when you play a team like USD that doesn't swing at garbage, you got to be able to throw strikes.
Yeah, and there's not a recipe to win games. That's also a lot of games, especially for college when you're used to playing a couple times a week. Play 3 games in 3 days. That's a lot for a college team to be able to handle.
The top half of that rotation for the Aztecs, really good. Then it starts running into some problems, as you see, with what they have on Sundays and now, maybe on Tuesdays. Women's basketball dominated the Mountain West. They continue to dominate the Mountain West. They have now clinched a share of the Mountain West regular season title. They're 22-4 overall, 16-1 in the Mountain West. But as talking with Chris Ello, as we did, they got to win the Mountain West tournament to get in. They don't have enough metric-wise to get in as an at-large, which is very unfortunate that the Mountain West and women's basketball is a one-bid league.
Yeah, absolutely. Nala Williams leading the team offensively and in assists as well. Caitlin Hamilton continuing to shine, 6th Player of the Year candidate, balanced scoring and discipline, leading to a 68-59 win over Fresno State over the weekend to secure that 16-1 Mountain West record.
Yeah, they still have a chance to win it outright. If they win Wednesday at Boise State, they will win the regular season championship outright. Softball. All guests on 97 through the Fan. Join us on the SDCCU Fan Hotline. It's not big bank banking. It's better. As we broadcast live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. I do want to remind everybody as we approach 1 o'clock, remember to listen at 1 for us to announce today's biggest fan for a chance to qualify for a night in our Odyssey suite at a future Padres game with all the fan staff. Register your name at 97throughthefansd.com/biggest fan in order to potentially have your name called. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. It's the Braden Surprenant Show. Settings over Sports Station 97 through the Fan. We have another clarification, additional context, Frank. So Dennis Lynn an hour ago said, correction regarding the Padres sale process. Sources clarify that Joe Kudla and Drew Brees, Joe Kudla and Drew Brees did not submit a formal bid. They are, however, exploring potentially partnering with one of the other groups. He tweeted that out an hour ago. As of 10 minutes ago, Dennis Lynn tweeted this out. Additional context per sources. Kudla and Brees looked into putting together a bid. Kudla toured Petco Park this month, but they ultimately weren't one of the 5 groups that made offers by Wednesday's deadline. One of the 5 groups, Frank, which means what?
It's 4 groups now.
No, There's now 2 anonymous groups.
Oh.
Because weren't one of the 5 groups made the offer. They were considered one of the groups and then a mystery group. You now have 2 mystery groups as a part of this conversation, and you don't know which one Breeze and Kudla want to be a part of.
Mr. and Mrs. Moose. A nano moose.
Any relation to Mariner Moose?
I'm sure somewhere down the line.
So, Kudla and Breeze are 2 entities that were going to put a bid in, but did not. They ultimately did not put one in by the deadline. They do want to partner with a group. And since it said they were not one of the 5 groups that made offers by Wednesday's deadline, there are 5 groups that have made offers. There are 3 that we know, and there are 2 that we don't know. As we go into the second round of bids, if you will, for the Padres ownership. But when you look at this, I find that Kudla and Breeze are very valuable to one of these potential bidders because it has that local tie. And so Kudla and Breeze might not have had the funds, maybe, and who knows? There could have been a lot of things that happened, that reason why they didn't put in a bid, but that doesn't mean they can't still be a part of the Padres ownership if they join a group. And if I'm any other group, any of the 5 groups, regardless of what my local ties are, it's nice, and it would be nice, to have a local tie to the team. That local connection where it's their hometown, they've planted roots, they're not going anywhere, they have that kind of money, and they want their local team to be very good. I think that's a massive add to any ownership group that might want to bring in Kudla or Drew Brees, who now officially have not put a bid in. But they want to join a group. It's very interesting. Back-to-back corrections and context from Dennis Lin, starting to put this puzzle together a little bit, Frank.
Yeah, and that was a story that came out kind of late last night. It was,
relatively late afternoon.
Like later afternoon into the night. So I would not be surprised if we see even further clarifications on this situation. It's the sale of a team, and plus, we're sitting here marveling at how fast this team is selling and how fast it's moving. They might pick somebody before opening day. The sale might not be done until the middle of next year. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the context of these are obviously
it takes a long time for one of these sales to go through because they have to be chosen by the owner. They have to get approved by all of the other owners. They have to set up payment plans and all that stuff. So it could be a while before whoever buys this team, say they buy it tomorrow, it could be a while before they actually take ownership of the team. And it's going to be even longer than that before their changes really start to get implemented and you see their changes on the field.
I mean, it took the Orioles a year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's possible it might take longer. I think based on the reports, and again, there's been a lot of corrections now in both Dennis Lin and Ken Rosenthal's for Kevin Acey's report. I mean, a lot of these reports have had a lot of corrections to them because it's sources and he said, she said, and trying to get the context of some of these situations. The context of the fact that they would have a sale done by like the first month of the year, I think I agree with you, Frank. I think it's more of they will have somebody picked at that point. Now, whether or not it's officially finalized will remain to be seen. How fast they get through that, I would be shocked if it happens within a month. But it sounds like they like a lot of these potential buyers, and they're ready to pick one after the second round. We'll see what happens with this, but some 2 very important corrections put out there.
I don't know about you, but I'd like anyone who'd be willing to give me upwards of $2.5 billion. They would be pretty okay in my book, honestly.
Highly possible for that to be the case. I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So we'll keep you updated. We'll keep you updated on everything that happens with this potential sale. Who pops up, who doesn't? If we find out who the anonymous ownership groups are through the media, we'll be sure to pass it along. Before we dive into some of these big questions, into facing the Padres going into opening day, the one thing that really stood out to me, Frank, we got a couple of minutes to discuss this, and I think it's going to lead to a bigger conversation in the next segment. Mm-hmm. But let's go back to the clip of him talking about that final roster spot. It got clipped off in its own thing on 97 Through the Fans page. It's the second one. I think Adam clipped it separately. Mm-hmm. But let's go back and listen to this for context. And then let's start trying to piece this together. Here's what Craig Stammen said he believed in when it came to that final bench piece, what the team is looking for, what he's looking for in terms of a final bench piece for the Padres.
When you look at, I guess there's a scenario with Andujar getting signed, Castellanos coming in, where maybe you're looking at sort of one final bench spot and a lot of guys that have different skill sets that can fit that spot. At this point, what do you feel like you guys will value for maybe like a final bench spot? Is it, more outfield, infield, things like that?
Yeah, I don't exactly know at this point. It's still really early. It's not even March yet. So we got to see how it shakes out, see how spring training shakes out. There's always a lot of different things that happen and different equations. But, I think when you're looking at a bench, I've always said you want somebody off the bench that's going to scare an opposing pitcher. If you want to pinch hit them, and then you need guys that can do special things, be puzzle pieces, can play different positions, can steal a base, can, be very strategic defensively, improve our defense at the end of the game. So
interesting conversation here for the final roster spot, Frank, in a sense that we thought, when you look at some of the names that are competing for a bench spot, and it's in some capacity. Now, some of these guys will win starting jobs too, but the question marks on the roster, the 4 or 5 players that are not guaranteed to make the roster. Nick Castellanos, which I think is probably on a should be, like, we're going to talk about NCAA, combine the NCAA tournament conversation of this. Nick Castellanos should be in the tournament candidate. Yes. If he plays awful, he's probably going to pork his way out, but he should be in. He should be on the team. Gavin Sheets should be on the team, right? He's still a bubble guy, but should be on it. He's like an 89 to 96% chance he's making the team. Mm-hmm. Batting for Miguel Andujar. It's another guy. Other players, more in the work to do category. Sungmoon Song, work to do category. Ty France, definitely work to do category. Jose Miranda, definitely work to do category. Bryce Johnson should be in, but after the comments from Craig Stammen, I almost drop him down to a has work to do now, based on the fact that his whole sentiment was the guy coming off the bench needs to be somebody that scares opposing pitchers. With that description, that strikes me as like a power hitter. That strikes me as a pinch hit, a more of a pinch hitter than a defensive replacement. Is Bryce Johnson scary to other teams' bullpen arms? Maybe he is. I don't think he is. I think he's more of a defensive replacement, and I can steal bags with him, and he's a solid hitter. But if the game is on the line and you need a pinch hitter for somebody that's in your lineup that's not necessarily the best bat, but is a good overall player, I don't necessarily know I'm calling Bryce Johnson to make that plate appearance, Frank.
I wouldn't either, unless you're in a real pinch. But to me, you can scare a pitcher in several different ways, not necessarily just the power. Just being a guy who can put a slap hit down where you need to be. He's also another guy who we saw bunt a lot last year, was Bryce Johnson, and try to use his speed to get on that way. You can scare a pitcher just by being a nuisance on the base paths, and you can get their focus away from the hitter, possibly help the guy who's currently at the plate. So I don't see it necessarily as just being a power threat. I could see him being scary as more of a nuisance than a serious, like a hitter threat.
I don't think he's scary enough for even those contexts. I mean, he's not somebody like, what's your level of confidence that if you put Bryce Johnson in with the game on the line that you're going to win the game?
He would not be my first option. He wouldn't even be my second option.
Out of the group that you have?
Yeah, out of the group I have, he would not be.
Is your third option?
Possibly, depending upon.
I mean, your top three options are Gavin Sheets, not in this particular order, but your top three to me would be Gavin Sheets, Nick Castellanos, Miguel Andujar.
Well, you would have to. I'm basing that off of you also would have to assume that either Castellanos or Sheets is on the bench,
right?
At that point,
some of those guys are going to be on the bench.
Some of them are going to be in
that combo of those three. One of those guys is going to be on the bench at some point in time.
Yeah, I would put him behind. I would put him behind one of those three, possibly depending upon how good he's hitting, how well he's hitting. Possibly Luis Campusano. I'd maybe put him behind Campy. I think Bryce Johnson still has a place on this team.
I do, but I don't think he fits the description of what Craig Stammen said. That's the difference. Like before up until about 9 this morning, whenever they did that press conference, I thought for sure like Bryce Johnson's going to be a shoo-in for this team because of all the intangibles he brings. But from that perspective, like, I don't necessarily know he is that guy. Can you keep a guy like Bryce Johnson and somebody else? But then maybe it goes down to, is it the conversation between Sun Moon Song and one of these players? Like, if you start ranking some of these guys to come in and pinch hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the game, with the game on the line. And I'm going to throw everybody that could potentially be a bench piece. So that's Castellanos, Andujar, and Sheets. That's guys like Sung Moon Song. I don't want to throw Campusano in there, Frank, because he's going to make the team because they need a backup catcher.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go through it again. Castellanos, Sheets, Andujar. I think those three are all better than Bryce Johnson in that particular sense.
Yes, 100%.
Guys like Sung Moon Song, probably not. I would probably rank Johnson above him. Ty France, right now, I'd probably take Ty France over Bryce Johnson in that particular situation.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Jose Miranda? I mean, Jose Miranda's like, he's still relatively young, and he has some pretty good numbers, and he's got major league experience. He might have a little bit more pop than, right? Like, Jose Miranda is kind of a close person there.
One thing I think that we're overlooking that might actually end up hurting Bryce Johnson in this case, not necessarily that he doesn't scare opposing pitchers. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a two-time platinum glover out there in right field. Jackson Merrill is more than capable in center field with a glove. So is Ramon Laureano. You're not replacing Gavin Sheets out there anymore. You're not replacing an old over-the-hill Jason Hayward or a Yuli Gurriel out there anymore. You don't really have guys in the outfield. Now, they're going to need a day off at some point, but even then, you have Andujar and you have Castellanos who can fill in for a day out there, and Sheets as well. That actually might hurt Bryce Johnson more, is the fact that there's really not a need for a defensive replacement in the outfield with this particular outfield.
I think there's still a need because of exactly what you just said at the end, and that is the situation of those guys getting a day off.
Andujar can play left.
But now late in the game, you're not putting in the guy that you're giving a day off into the game. So now you're in a situation where you wish you had a defensive replacement. Why just eliminate the middleman and just have Bryce Johnson on the team to do that so he spot starts, and then you don't have to worry about that? Because, like, if you decide to do that, guess who you have out there in the late innings in a close game, potentially, if you gave somebody a day off? It's Castellanos, it's Andujar, it's Gavin Sheets. Yeah, I think you could get through a game there a little bit, but I think you would want a defensive outfielder and a defensive replacement in those particular situations. Plus, I like Bryce Johnson's ability to pinch run and do a couple other things.
All right. I like him too. I don't have a problem. I want him on the team. He's a good player to have on the team. I'm trying to think of ways that he would not be on the roster.
Well, it's what Craig Stammen just said. That's
Yeah.
why we started the conversation. He's just not a guy that scares opposite pitching. I don't think he really does. I think he needs to be on this roster. I do agree with that. I think what he brings to the table is important. But if the manager's saying they need somebody that's going to scare opposing pitchers, he doesn't fit in that category.
Right.
I think he fits that category more than Mason McCoy. I think he fits that category more than Will Wagner, right? I think he's better than those guys. But it's probably relatively close to even with Jose Miranda. And I probably would take Ty France right now over Johnson in that particular case. And I would definitely take, in some type of order, Castellanos, Sheets, and Andujar, which means you don't have a spot for Bryce Johnson if that's what it's going to come down to. But I don't necessarily think it's going to come down to that. I think he might be making the team over something else. Maybe it's come down to Sungmoon Song and Ty France, and Sungmoon Song starts in AAA. I mean, these are some of the conversations that are going to be had in spring training. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll get to the sports thread. We will continue to dive into some big questions facing the Padres entering opening day and get to some interesting stuff from the bullpen. How one pitcher currently in the bullpen shows just how good Padres pitching development has been and why it's so valuable to this organization. We'll talk more about that as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan. San Diego FC didn't just open its second MLS season. It made a statement. 5-0 a demolition of CF Montreal at Snapdragon Stadium. And the biggest headline, 19-year-old San Diego native making his first MLS start and pitching a clean sheet, Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. Duran Furry, Del Norte High School, former San Diego Loyal product, starting in the MLS because Pablo Cisniega was suspended and CJ Dos Santos still recovering from his injury. So Furry steps in and didn't miss a step. I mean, early save in the 4th minute, commanding catch off the corner in traffic, 2 total saves, a clean sheet, a very, very calm night for Furry between the sticks.
Yeah, and as Mikey Varas said, the head coach of San Diego FC, the moment will never be too big for him. That's not just coach speak, that's belief. And in a league where goalkeeper mistakes get magnified, Furry looked composed, controlled, and confident. This wasn't survival. This was, I belong here in the MLS. And what a great showing again from a San Diego kid representing San Diego FC and the city.
Yeah, and again, he got thrown right into the fire immediately. Had to make a huge save right in the opening goes of it. So after that, San Diego FC kind of got their legs under them. Montreal got a red card, and the night was pretty much over for him.
That was the part 1 of the game on Saturday. Part 2 in this 4-part series. Anders Dreyer is him, Frank. Young keeper held it down in the back. The attack was clinical. Anders Dreyer picked up right where he left off. He had assist on Chris McVeigh's opener. He had assist on Mark-André Vargson's goal. Constant pressure in transition. Last year, 16 assists, second to only Messi. And he is the face of the franchise. This year, already setting the tone. Dreyer isn't just productive, he's decisive. And when he's pulling the strings, offense moves fast. And you saw that on Saturday in person.
Yeah, and that beautiful goal, I believe it was by Amal Pellegrino at the very end of the first half. He's not going to get credit on the assist for that because it was a shot that was saved. But even the way he took that shot, it's a 2-on-1, and he's coming up the right side, shoots it to the left of the keeper. Keeper has no choice but to deflect it left, which is right where Amal Pellegrino was, who was there for an open tapper. So he had a major part in 3 goals last night. He's only going to get credit for 2 apples, but 3 assists, more or less, last night on Saturday night.
And that brings up a good talking point about the depth being real. And that's the part 3 of this 4-part story about the game on Saturday. What made the game impressive? It wasn't just the score. It was who contributed. You mentioned Pellegrino scored again. Valakari ripping one from distance. 18-year-old,
beautiful shot.
right to dream grad, and Brian Zamble scoring 2 days after signing with San Diego FC. Young players stepping into meaningful roles, not a star-dependent soccer team, system soccer. And when Montreal went down to 10 men after the red card, as you mentioned, Frank, at the 53rd minute, San Diego FC buried them. No mercy, 3-goal surge around halftime, and they never looked back. That shows signs of maturity, but also benefiting from the youth movement. And again, the system under Mikey Varas has been so successful in his now year and now in year 2 of being at the helm of San Diego FC.
In those last 2 goals, the one by Oni Valakari, it was a beautiful back heel kind of stop from Ingvartsen that set him up for a beautiful shot. And then, as you mentioned, Brian Zambele, the right to dream grad, the San Diego FC's pride and joy, really. Just a beautiful, beautiful solo effort from him to be able to get a goal from a pretty sharp angle as well, and then to ingratiate himself with the San Diego FC faithful, jumping right into the Ultras after that goal, got the crowd fired up again. That came late in the game, too, to make it 5-0, and Zambelli really took his moment to shine there.
Let's get to part 4. What does this win really mean? Let's keep the perspective. It's just one match, and Montreal went down a man, and they didn't have a good year last year. It's early February. We have a couple of minutes here, so let's dive into the before we get to the sports thread. Let's give you the Padres lineup today as they take on the Colorado Rockies. Man, I do not know too many Colorado Rockies. I know Mickey Moniak. I know Ezekiel Tovar. I know Hunter Goodman. I also know Cole Carrig because he played at San Diego State. But when you're looking at his lineup, man, what's going on with the Rockies? All right, starting lineup today for the San Diego Padres, as written in by the manager, Craig Stammen. Leading off playing shortstop, Xander Bogaerts, batting second in center field. Jackson Merrill batting third and DHing. Manny Machado batting fourth, and in right field, Fernando Tatis Jr. batting fifth and at second base, Jake Cronenworth batting sixth and at first, Miguel Andujar. Ramon Laureano bats seventh. He plays left field today. Sungmoon Song is going to start at third base and bat eighth, and Luis Camposano rounding out the lineup and catching. There you go. There is your starting lineup for the San Diego Padres today. As for the Rockies, Frank might know a lot of these guys because of fantasy baseball. Mickey Moniak, local product out of La Costa Canyon High School. He plays right field, bats leadoff. Ezekiel Tovar bats second, plays shortstop. Hunter Goodman batting third is the designated hitter. Willie Castro playing third base, bats fourth. Troy Johnston plays first base, bats fifth. Cole Carrig, San Diego State Aztec, is going to play center field and bat sixth today for the Rockies. Adil Amador plays second base, bats seventh. Sterling Thompson plays left field's bats eighth. Kyle McCann will catch and bat ninth. Starting pitcher today for the San Diego Padres going against that lineup is Randy Vasquez. Love to see Randy Vasquez build off of what he did in his last start, Frank.
Yeah, it would be nice. I know they just missed Chase Dollander. I believe he pitched yesterday, but I knew a couple of guys there. I knew it was like top four, I think. That was about it.
Couple of dudes.
After Willie Castro, you lost me.
Yeah. Not Cole Carrig, man?
No, sorry.
Aztec, dude.
Sorry to disappoint.
How about Kalen DeBoer being at the USD softball tournament this weekend? I guess his daughter plays for Washington. So there you go. Kalen DeBoer's in town. Probably getting some recruiting in too. Maybe. Speaking of college football, speaking of other sports that are not the Padres, it is time to get to today's sports thread.
You know that group chat? The one that's always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news?
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a
No filters, no silence, just real talk. Brought to you by QC Kinetics. Stop sitting on the sidelines. QC Kinetics gets you back in the game without surgery. To learn how, visit QCkinetics.com.
All right, Frank, what do we got going on today in the sports world?
Oh, we got a lot going on over here. We've also got a lot going on in the sports world.
Number one.
For a third straight year, the Miami Dolphins have been ranked number one in the NFLPA's annual player report cards, followed by the Minnesota Vikings and the Washington Commanders, while the Pittsburgh Steelers finished last for the first time in the survey history, and the Arizona Cardinals and Cleveland Browns rounded out the bottom three. Based on the responses from 1,759 players, the survey graded teams on everything from ownership to facilities, with Steelers players criticizing owner Art Rooney's willingness to invest, locker room conditions, and field quality throughout, though the report cards will not be made public after an arbiter ruled that they violated the collective bargaining agreement, siding with the NFL's grievance that the survey was unreliable and disparaging, even as the union says it will continue collecting players' feedback. Without public report cards, how can players hold teams accountable for workplace conditions? And should transparency outweigh league concerns about fairness?
I think they should definitely post these things, because that is how you hold these teams accountable.
Yep.
Otherwise, they can just, like, if they don't get any public backlash, they're not going to change anything.
Nope.
It's not, you know what? It's unfair that they did this. You know what? Be better. Be better. It's not crazy. Now, I will say some of the Players Association stuff, like the NFL put out a memo after that because they're upset that this got leaked to the media again.
Darn. Oh no.
They argue that they pick and choose certain quotes. They don't always do the popular ones or the positive ones, and like the way that they come up with a lot of this information.
No one cares about happy people. They only want to hear about the disgruntled ones.
I'm just saying, like, apparently the way that they put this together is kind of shady, is what the NFL is claiming. If they do it in a right way, and a way that gets a good sample of what players in these organizations think, or they ask everybody on the team, and then they average it out, I think that means a lot more than just we're going to pick and choose certain guys to fit certain narratives. I think from that standpoint, I think it would be unfair. But I do agree. This needs to be public. This is all you need to know about this particular situation. The Falcons got an A grade for their head coach last year.H got fired. So, I mean, obviously great with the players.
Clearly mean nothing.
The head coach for the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, got a C+. Dean Spanos got an A-, according to the players over there. So, like, that, take this all for what it's worth of what's going on with these surveys. I don't believe them all the time. You're telling me the guy, like one of the worst owners in football, got an A- from his players this year? Give me a break. Give me a break.
Fun guy.
Number two.
The NCAA Football Oversight Committee is recommending emergency legislation to crack down on schools and coaches who circumvent the January transfer portal window, proposing major penalties, including a 6-game suspension for head coaches who accept ineligible transfers, a fine of 20% of a school's football budget, and loss of 5 roster spots the following season. If a player joins a program without properly entering the portal, committee leaders say, quote, significant penalties are necessary to protect the established window, with the proposal set for an April vote as transfer-related disputes continue to mount, including Cincinnati's lawsuit against former quarterback Brendan Sorsby over $1 million NIL buyout after his reported $5 million move to Texas Tech. Will harsh penalties actually deter back-channel portal deals, or will NIL money continue to outpace enforcement?
I think it's going to outpace the enforcement, but I'm glad that the NCAA is finally putting in rules. I think it's great that they're finally putting in rules. Now, whether or not they're enforceable will remain to be seen. But they got to start cutting this thing down, because it's only catering to the top 1% of earners in college football. So let's not pretend like we're paying everybody, because we're not. We're just paying the top 1% who, like in every walk of life, take everything, according to a lot of people. So from that logic, you should probably hope that there's some rules in college football, because this is getting really out of hand. And I'm not just talking about the teams. I'm talking like the individual players too. The amount of money that they drop is not really worth what they're getting back.
No, absolutely. It's obscene. And this is what we were talking about yesterday as well, with the pendulum swung so far in the players' direction. Now the NCAA is starting to get some public backing, and it's also starting to get some legislative backing as well in some of these decisions. So now it's going to start turning the other way, where now the NCAA, I think, is going to start to gain some of this momentum and ground back.
It's so interesting, the world we live in right now, where it is the world of the public no longer backing players in both college athletics and in the Major League Baseball.
No kidding, huh?
And they're backing the people at the top.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's gone too far.
Number 3.
The Pittsburgh Penguins announced that Captain Sidney Crosby will miss at least 4 weeks after being placed on injured reserve with a lower body injury suffered while playing for Team Canada in the Olympics, when his right leg was awkwardly bent during a hit in the quarterfinal win over Czechia. The 38-year-old sat out the remainder of the semifinal match and ultimately did not play in the gold medal game, which the United States won 2-1 in overtime. And now the Penguins, who resume NHL play against the New Jersey Devils last night, will be without their leading scorer, 27 goals over 59 points, as they battle for playoff positioning in the Metropolitan Division. How much does Crosby's absence impact Pittsburgh's playoff chances, and should the NHL Stars rethink Olympic participation given injury risk?
No, they should not rethink
they
it.
should not.
They can get hurt doing a lot of different things. It happens. It's unfortunate. Sucks to be the Penguins. Let me put on my care face. I don't really care about the Penguins. So tough, but it happens. And there you are. Sucks that they're out. He's out for a handful of weeks, but it's a long season. He'll probably be back in time to do some other stuff.
And Crosby's a guy who's also he's known for getting injured. He's also known for getting injured and staying out longer than the timetable would suggest that he would get injured. I don't think there's any world where you can take a look at the success that not only the Four Nations tournament was, but this Olympics was, with the NHL players back, and say, you know what? Crosby got hurt. Maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. It would make no sense at all.
Number 4.
This came down from earlier this week. A Fort Bend County grand jury returned a no bill in the felony assault case against former NBA guard Patrick Beverley, ending the matter after determining there was insufficient evidence to proceed in trial in what police described as a family violence issue. Beverly, 37, was arrested in November at a home in Rosharon, Texas. But his attorney said he would never harm his sister and expressed gratitude that the grand jury allowed the process to play out. While Beverly, who last played in the NBA with the Milwaukee Bucks and previously starred for teams including the Rockets and Clippers, said the ordeal has made his family stronger. When high-profile athletes are cleared legally, how much damage lingers publicly, and can a reputation truly ever be restored?
I think it's very hard for that. I think you just look at a lot of different athletes out there, and I think people. What I don't like about these stories is I don't like when people pick and choose when they're gonna say the guy was acquitted and when they're gonna say he wasn't. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I know in the court of law, which is what we use here in the United States, to determine whether or not somebody is guilty, even though the court said he's not, we're gonna still pretend like everything that he was alleged to do, we're gonna believe it's true, even though he was acquitted of that. I don't like that kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Agreed.
But it's interesting when they decide to do that for certain players and not others. You're either for it or you're against it.
Yep.
That's all I can say about that. All right. Big question circling the Padres going on opening day. I teased it too many times. We get to it at noon.
San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the gas lamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime years.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
New lunchtime hour. Tacos.
Not yet, dude.
Tacos.
No tacos.
Where are the tacos at?
I don't know where they are, but they're not here
Where are
yet.
the tacos?
I'm waiting for the tacos. Where the damn tacos at?
Tacos. We'll have to add a taco to the graphic now instead of the hot dog. All right, let's get to some stuff here that I want to dive into with the Padres and some of the big questions that AJ Cassavell laid out in terms of what the Padres need to have answered before they start opening day. Now, on top of that, we do have Padres baseball starting soon. And we just heard we get the...
It's another certified Seinfeld Costanza moment. We
Yeah,
just had it
exactly.
here.
Frank's complaining about how nice the open sounds for the Padres spring training, which is done by professionals. And then complains like, why is our open not like that? And then starts complaining about the song that I picked for the open.
No,
that
I just said like it like the opening, it hits harder. That's all I said.
I mean, you can tweak the
music
open
or
as much
anything.
as you want. The opens are made by the producers. I had to make that myself.
I didn't know that.
We do need an update on that.
Didn't know that was you.
That we talked about 2 months ago that we still don't
No, that was you.
have an update for.
Didn't know it was
That
you,
was
dude.
you were supposed to do, but we haven't done it yet. So, yeah. We want to talk opens? We can talk opens.
No.
Talk opens.
No. Opens are good.
Yeah.
Opens are all good, dude.
That is the one job I absolutely hate doing the most is making production. I hate it. I despise it. I remember a couple of times where I would make something that I would hate to make. Okay? I hate doing it. Hated doing it. Writing the scripts for it, getting it voiced, trying to find, music for it, trying to find like drops that were interesting or entertaining to me, all trying to do that and then like have it done within a week. Absolutely despise doing that type of work. And I remember I would make it sometimes and immediately it would get S'd on all the time from like some of the hosts. And I would just be like, you do it. I don't know what you want me to say. I just like, I would get specific, requests for stuff. I'd even put that in and they'd still get mad. And I'd just be like, I don't, this is not something I like to be creative with. It's not my deal. Hated doing it. Still hate doing it. Hate up.
That's why
Worst. My least favorite thing to do in all of radio is making production. I get it. It has to be done. Needs to be done. You need to have that stuff. I hate doing it.
And it's really good, dude. You do a good job.
It needs to be updated. I don't have time to update. I haven't had time to update it yet. It needs to be updated. Maybe the producer can update it. He's so good at it. He's very opinionated about it.
Opinionated doesn't mean good. Like I know, like I'm very opinionated on how Fox should do its NASCAR broadcasts, but it doesn't mean I would be good at it. I think I would be, but that's not the point.
All right, well,
that's not the point.
Now you're now challenged to redo the open, but I like the music, so keep the music the same. Everything else, go ahead. Change it for what you will. How come this open's so much cooler than ours? Hey, man, the people that are professional make those things. I'm not a professional billboard maker, Frank.
I didn't mean our show open. I meant our Padres spring training open. That's what I meant.
Yeah, you said it sounded great. It does sound great.
No, I'm saying their open that they had done sounds way better than our Padre Open, not our show open, you goober.
I don't know about that.
It's two different things.
It didn't really sound like that.
It's two completely different things.
just
Why
like,
would
this
I
is
compare
just-
the show open to a spring training open? Why would I do that?
You know what I got to do?
Did you make the spring training open?
I used to have to make those.
But did you make it?
No, this year I did
okay,
not.
well then there you go.
I'm going to
So
show
you
this
have
video
no
to my.
concern at all.
I need to show this video to my defensive backs on how to properly backpedal fast. That was a great. You had the first step out and then gained the. You're a quick backpedal. I'm going to have you. You're going to have to become celebrity coach. And
celebrity coach.
And
if you have me as a celebrity coach, you are hurting for celebrities bad.
Celebrity coach. You never heard of celebrity shots? You don't have to be a celebrity. That's when you're playing like beer pong or something like that. You need somebody to come in. It's a little celebrity shot. Celebrity coach. Frank can come in and teach my kids how to backpedal fast. I tell you what, ain't no receiver running past my DBs with that.
I genuinely did not mean our show open. Why would I care?
Cole
Why
Brooks,
would I?
Beautiful form by Frank on the back pedal.
Why would I compare a spring training baseball open to a talk show open? That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
You're backpedaling because
I'm not backpedaling. I'm telling you the truth.
I made our open, and you immediately like, oh, it's great. Oh, it's great.
No, I was definitely backpedaling on the show open, and I knew you made the. I knew you made the show opening. I thought you. I was talking the entire time. I was talking about our spring training open for the radio. I was not talking about the show open.
Is the one that they do for the 97.3 broadcast different than that one?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yes.
It's the same voice guy, though. You have to have
it's the same guy, but the music doesn't hit nearly as hard as the open we just played or just heard.
You get a foul.
Why do I?
That's a foul.
I get a foul because you misunderstood the open I was talking
Stop trying
about.
Don't gaslight me. I know what I heard. It's a foul on you. Also a foul on Tim Day. Foul on Tim Day.
For what?
Another bad joke he made.
Oh, I didn't.
During the broadcast yesterday, I said I'd give him a foul today.
Another
bad dad joke. One I can't even tell on the radio. I'll tell it to you
because
during
it was
the
so
break.
bad, or
No,
because it was
I don't know. It's not appropriate.
Okay.
It's borderline, but it's something like after I tell it to you, you're gonna be like, you know what? I don't really want it. I don't think you should have said that.
Yeah, good on you for choosing discretion there.
Who pissed off Frankie left turns? Cole Brooks is killing me right now. Gonna need a little accountability on this show. Somebody needs to put their hand up.
I 100%. I was 100% talking about our spring training open. I knew you made the show open because it was virtually the same thing as what you had when you were doing the Sunday open.
It was basically the same thing.
So I knew that. I knew the show open you did.
Okay.
Again, why would I compare the opening to a spring training baseball game to the opening of a talk show? That makes no sense. It's different.
It kind of makes it like I get it.
It's different.
I get it. Great form on the backpedaling.
That's fine.
Go Aztecs. I advise you that you have the right to remain silent, Frank. Cole's killing Frank. I believe you believe that.
because that's what was going on in Mahid at the time.
Where's the George Costanza clip? And the Curb Your Enthusiasm music.
Well, that one I got. I got that one. Braden is doing textbook emotional.
It's great when even Juan's taking your side. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
Juan feels bad for you. You know what? Why? Because Juan usually is the one performing the emotional terrorism, and now he's upset that he's not the one dishing it out right now. Let's get to some of these questions for the Padres. Padres are less than a month from opening day. AJ Cassavell wrote an article about some of the big decisions that still loom for the Padres. Craig Stammen's facing multiple key roster decisions. Several structural questions remain unresolved, and spring training isn't about reps anymore. It's obviously about real choices. We've talked about this a lot. We've talked about this so much that I feel like you've even been convinced to potentially look into. I've almost convinced myself. Because when we first started this conversation about the 5 or 6 man rotation, I threw it out there as an interesting topic of ideas. I wasn't necessarily believing the 6 man rotation. I've almost bought into it now.
Yeah,
and have convinced myself.
You bought me into the 6 man rotation. And as we were discussing it at some point last week, you started to like bring out all of the negatives of having a 6 man rotation. I'm like, dude, you just got me to buy in. Now you're trying to kick me out again. What happened?
There's negatives to it. There's negatives to the 6 man rotation.
But you turned it into like, well, it could be countered by those talking points could be countered by this. And I'm like, okay, fair.
So the 5 or 6 man rotation, what are the Padres going to do? Now, we have not seen some of these guys pitch yet. JP Sears is scheduled to pitch tomorrow, correct?
JP Sears, I believe, he's scheduled to pitch at some point this weekend.
Yeah, I saw his name on the list. Randy Vasquez.
Yes, he is going tomorrow.
Today.
He is going tomorrow. TBD gets another workout on Sunday.
All right, so rotation 5 or 6. The locks right now are Pivetta, Musgrove, and King. I'm still skeptical on like Musgrove being officially on the roster when opening day starts due to maybe an injury or like how they want to spread things out, but I think it's interesting. But those 3 guys at some point in the season are going to be part of the rotation, guaranteed. Correct.
Yeah.
Some health caveats. Obviously, Musgrove returning from Tommy John, King coming off of a knee and nerve issues. 6-man rotation under consideration could ease Musgrove and King back, balances player health and competitive urgency. Back end candidates to the starting rotation. Randy Vasquez, who is likely in. We'll see how he does again today. He had a pretty good outing in his first spring training outing. Herman Marquez threw a bullpen today. Walker Buehler, who we haven't seen yet in a game. JP Sears, who I think will be part of the AAA rotation. Marco Gonzalez, who's out of options. Tristan McKenzie, also another guy, non-roster invitee like Gonzalez, also out of options. Part of this group of candidates. Matt Waldron and Griffin Canning are likely injured list bound. Rotation construction impacts the bullpen size and the entire roster structure. I agree with that. Like, if you're going to look at the roster and all the roster decisions, Frank, they kind of have to start with the rotation first, because if they don't know if they're doing a 5 or a 6-man rotation, they can't decide what the bullpen's going to look like.
Correct. You need to know how many starters you have to carry in order to fill out your bullpen. That's textbook. You need to know who is going to be in the rotation before you know who is coming out of the bullpen to relieve them, as a reliever would do.
We went through this last week, did we not? We went through this last Friday?
Yes.
About what the rotation would look like in a 6-man versus a 5-man. And I think we determined that the first 3 guys in the rotation would get 7 days off before their second start.
Yes.
And then after that, it would go down to 6. And I think ended up being 5 after that, with the couple of with the games starting to stack up a little bit. But from that perspective, if only the top 3 have the 7th day off, you could, and we talked about almost manipulating your rotation. And the thing that makes it difficult is like opening day is a big deal. Starting opening day is a big deal. Craig Stammen mentioned how much of a big deal it is to start opening day. But if you were to theoretically go with your 2, I don't want to say injured prone, but the 2 guys that are coming off of injury, and then the young guy and Randy Vasquez, and you start them against the Tigers, Frank, and those are the 3 that get the 7 days off, I think you line it up where it would make sense for the extra day of rest for those players, because those are the players you're trying to somewhat protect
for me
at the beginning part of the season.
Yeah, for me, I've been steadfast that I want Michael King starting on opening day, which would fit him,
which works. He's one of the 3.
Line him up in the 7. I can definitely see a world where if Joe Musgrove makes the team by not starting on the IL,
I could definitely see a world where he pitches the second game and Nick Pivetta starts the series against San Francisco. I could definitely see that world for sure.
If I look at it from the perspective, 6-man, 5-man, a couple other things too with that, that means you can add a guy like Walker Buehler to the rotation, right? I mean, that's part of the deal too. But the way it kind of battles out, I kind of like the 6-man rotation because I think you're going to get the health that you need out of some of these guys. And you could go through the list of how it's going to plan out. Maybe we do this like during the break, but based on how the schedule lines up, if you do a 6-man rotation, I don't think you could start Nick Pivetta opening day.
No.
I don't think because Nick Pivetta doesn't need 7 days off. Joe Musgrove, Michael King, you can ease them into the regular season. Randy Vasquez, I think you can ease into the regular season. Maybe it's a guy like Ramon Marquez or Walker Buehler, but I'd rather have them near the back end. But if you split it up into 2 3-man rotations with the with the first couple series, they're pretty strong against both teams. You're going to have and the way I would do it is King or Musgrove starting opening day. And I think you go with King over Musgrove.
Yes.
And so you have King start opening day. You have Musgrove start Tony Gwynn opening day. And then you have Randy Vasquez on the Saturday of opening weekend. Sunday, they're off. And then they play the Giants. And then you start the Giants series, division opponent that you're going to compete with Nick Pivetta. And then you go with 2 guys that have pitched in the division for a long time, Ramon Marquez and Walker Buehler. And I think with that and the extra days off, I think they're able to now be able to go, you're more willing for them to go deeper into a game at the beginning of the season so you don't burn their arm out pitching wise, and which would ultimately save the bullpen a little bit. Or maybe, you can treat one of those guys as a long relief guy, and it almost is like a bullpen day anyway with the 6th guy in the spot. But the problem with both of the 5 and 6-man rotations we've talked about is the effect on the bullpen. But if your starters don't do on a 5-man rotation, it's still affecting the bullpen. You need the starters to do well. You need them to go deeper into games. Otherwise, your bullpen's going to get taxed regardless if it's a 5 or 6-man rotation.
And this was the most taxed bullpen, or at least the highest leverage arms were the most taxed last year. So therein lies one of your issues, is that this is already a bullpen that was more or less overused last year, and now you're taking one arm away from it, which is one of the arguments against using a 6-man rotation.
So when we come, I'm gonna propose the 2 things again. We didn't get deeper into it, but the difference between a 6-man rotation to start the season and a 5-man rotation to start the season. This is before Griffin Canning can come back too, by the way. And the comparison. We'll talk about that when we come back as we this hour talk about the big questions still or decisions looming for the Padres before opening day. Braden Surprenant Show, standings number Sports Station 97 through the Fan. Big week across the board for UCSD and the Tritons athletics programs, as it was a mix of statement wins, a couple of tough losses, and momentum swings as postseason play creeps closer. Let's start with men's basketball. They have made the Big West Conference a little bit more shaky with a huge win at the Brent Event Center, taking down UC Irvine 71-69 as freshman Hudson Mays hit a game winner with 13 seconds left to knock off first place UC Irvine. Huge win for UCSD, really putting a wrench in the standings of the Big West Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're up to 19-9. You're 9-7 in Big West play, and you clinch a spot in the Big West Championship in Henderson. So this was also win number 100 for them as a Division I program, which is a major, major milestone. So congratulations to everyone with the basketball program.
Yeah, Tritons jumped out early. They hit threes. They dominated the glass. They built a 13-0 run. Irvine responded as good teams do, but UCSD closed the deal. That's the key. They executed late. Mays finished with 17 and 8 boards. Alex Chaikin added 15, and the team continues to show that it can win away from home. 11 road wins now. And the takeaway is It's not just a competitive program at D1 anymore. They're starting to turn into a dangerous program. It's going to take a little bit more time, especially with the new coach at UCSD and where everything lands up. But first step in this season for the basketball team is always make the Big West tournament, because not every school makes the Big West tournament in the conference. That's check number one. Number two, try to make a run to get yourself back in the NCAA tournament after winning the Big West tournament last year. As for women's basketball, first time that they lost, right, in a long time. They fall to Irvine 70-68 at home at Lion Tree Arena. And this one obviously stings because UCSD led for over 27 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. They shot better from the field. They dominated in the paint, fast break points, assists, almost every single category. They lost it on the free throw line, though. Irvine, 35 free throws. UC San Diego, only 14. And that was your major difference in the game over the weekend.
Yeah, Michaela Rose had 16 points for UCSD. Erin Condren posted yet another double-double. They did well enough to win, except they didn't get a couple of plays to go their way, and they couldn't overcome the free throw disparity. And that was a big factor right there as they lose by 2. The women are still 18-8, 13-3 in conference play, still in a great position. But if games are going to be this tight in March, can they survive that kind of gap at the free throw line? But they have to find ways to get themselves to the free throw line too. I mean, some of it could be, we're not getting the calls that we want, but also playing the style of game, you've got to get yourself to the free throw line sometimes, especially in basketball. As for baseball, Frank, a couple of missed opportunities for Eric Newman and his crew. On the diamond, they drop a 5-2 decision to Western Michigan to close out the Tony Gwynn Legacy Series. Gabe Camacho continues to swing it well. 3rd homer of the season. Pitching wasn't bad either. Nathan Reese struck out 7, but they stranded 10 runners.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we've seen downtown quite a bit, especially last year, stranding runners on base. They also had, if I can go back and see here, they also had a couple of close losses to, darn it.
They beat Creighton on Friday 8-7. That was a thrilling game. Yeah. And then they had a close loss on Saturday. I think it was against Omaha, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that
they
would
lost
have been
to Omaha, close. But they got the win against UCLA early in the season. They're going to continue to play good teams. I mean, USD is going to be high in the RPI right now with the start that they have had. It's going to be a good game on Tuesday at Triton Ballpark at 6:00. I'll have the call on USDToreros.com. Of course, you can watch the game on ESPN Plus. But they're 2-4. They're competitive. They're not finishing innings, and now they head into a tough road stretch with the Toreros. And then a tough stretch coming up. But after they host USD, they got to go to Lafayette to take on the Ragin' Cajuns, which is not that's no easy venture. And they also got to take on Cincinnati, who's off to a pretty good start in Big 12 as a Big 12 member in baseball. So they did well against Cincinnati last year. They're going to be able to do it on the road. We'll see if they can replicate it. As for softball, offensive firepower, but defensive gaps. Softball dropped 2 at the Mary Nutter Classic, 7-6 to Seattle, 10-3 to Rutgers. Offense showed life, multiple home runs, 11 hits in one game, but the 5th inning against Rutgers blew things open. 7 runs in one frame.
Yeah, absolutely. Now they've dropped 5 straight, and a little bit concerning here. When you hit and still lose, that usually means situational pitching and or defensive lapses. And that really has to get cleaned up if you want to make a run.
Big picture for UCSD to wrap up this week's update. Men's basketball starting to peak at the right time. Women's basketball right there on a Friday. Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. We got ourselves a look at the 6- and 5-man rotation here. And it's going to be interesting to call I got to count the days off in between. But I put it out on a sheet to kind of determine what it would look like and the difference. And to me, as we determined, the whole point of the 6-man rotation is what, Frank? What's the whole point of the 6-man rotation?
Give your starting pitchers, especially coming off of injury, extra time off.
Correct. And who are those pitchers?
King and Musgrove.
King and Musgrove.
Just so happen to be 2 of your better pitchers that you have.
King and Musgrove specifically, right? So these are the guys that you would need to break. Now, in this particular exercise of looking at the 6-man and 5-man rotation. The guys that start at the beginning part of the rotation in a 6-man rotation are going to be the guys that get an extra day off. Like whoever starts opening day is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days off before their next start, which is 3 more days than they would usually get in a 5-man rotation, right? You get the 4 days off. You pitch every 5th day. There you go. So he would get one of those. Michael King, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Would get 7 days off. Randy Vasquez, or whoever the 3 is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then Nick Pivetta, if he goes number 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He would have 6 days off. And then later on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he would then turn into 5 days off, which is only 1 extra day than what they would normally have at the beginning part of the season anyway. Right? So you have your 6-man rotation going. Now, in the 6-man rotation potential here, this is how we would do it again, because if the first 3 pitchers in the rotation are going to get a 7 days off between their first and second start, I think those guys have to be Joe Musgrove, Michael King, Randy Vasquez. Giving Walker Buehler an extra day off, or Germán Marquez, or whoever might fill out this rotation, I think is also in play if you want to put him as the number 3 guy. But if you go with a 6-man rotation, Joe Musgrove, Michael King, Randy Vasquez against Detroit. You follow me so far? We talked about that last break, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, Joe Musgrove and Michael King versus Framber Valdez and Tarek Skubal, still good matchups, even though Nick Pavetta's not on there. And then those 3 guys have 7 days off. You have a bye on that Sunday, and then against the Giants, you go Nick Pivetta, Germán Marquez, Walker Buehler. And then you have another day off. And then against Boston, it's Musgrove, King, Vasquez. And then against Pittsburgh, it's Pivetta, Marquez, Buehler. Against Colorado at home for 4, you got Musgrove, King, Vasquez, Pivetta. Then you're idle again. Seattle, Marquez, Buehler, Musgrove. The Angels, King, Vasquez, Pivetta. Colorado, Marquez, Buehler, Musgrove. Arizona for 2 down in Mexico, King and Vasquez. And then you come back home to take on the Cubs, and you got Pivetta, Marquez, Buehler. And those are like the beginning part of your season via a 6-man rotation. So Joe Musgrove, who's at the top, would have 7 days off. And then he would have 6 days off. And then he would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days off again. And then he would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days off again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then he would have 7 days off after that. So Musgrove would have 6 days in between his starts because of the breaks that he has. And guys like at the back end, like Nick Pivetta, would have 6 days off his first time through. And then his second time through, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days off. His third day through would be back to 6. And then his fourth would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ended up being actually 7 on his last deal. And that's the guy that starts 4th. So eventually you'll get, one guy will get, everybody through the rotation, I think, would get at least 7 days off once at the beginning part of the year. I don't mind it, Frank, at the beginning part of the season. But you can't do this the entire year.
No.
And by that time, who knows? Hopefully by the first, what did it say? Canning can come back in May?
That's when they're hoping, yes.
And then when you get to May, maybe you bring Canning back in, and then you go to the 5-man rotation with Canning. And by that time, you'll see who is on this team and who's not. If you go through that entire same thing with a 5-man rotation, Pivetta, King, Musgrove, the first 3, Vasquez, Marquez, Pivetta against the Giants, and then you have the stretch where you have multiple starts. Again, only have 4 days off. King, Musgrove, Vasquez, Marquez, Pivetta, King, Musgrove, Vasquez, Marquez, Pivetta. I mean, that's against the bulk of the month of April with Boston, Pittsburgh, and Colorado. But to me, the 6-man rotation, I think, matters at the beginning part of the season more so than it matters in the middle part of the season, especially if you want to give these guys those days off. And instead of having guys like Musgrove or King skip starts, it's a built-in extra day for them to rest. Now, the theory of this is if you decide to do this, you really need to have these particular pitchers go a little bit deeper into ball games, hopefully get the pitch count up a little bit higher than you normally would at the beginning of the season so you don't destroy your bullpen. But if King and Musgrove are unable to go deep into games because you're worried about them making it to the season, they're going to be taxing the bullpen anyway in a 5-man rotation, just like a 6-man rotation. And again, I would do this for the first month of the year and see where you're at with some of these guys like Edman Marquez or like Walker Buehler if he makes the team. And I think this is a way for them to make the team and really showcase themselves in the regular season, where those games obviously matter a lot more, where you get to see good competition and all that stuff. Somebody in the chat says 6-man rotation is great until you run into LA and you got to face your 4, 5, 6. You don't have to play the Dodgers until mid-May. By that time, you should have Griffin Canning back. You want to talk about other good teams you have to face early? Maybe the Red Sox early in the season. And you got to go with your 4, 5, 6. But if your 4 in the 6-man rotation is really Nick Pivetta, are you really throwing your 4, 5, 6 against anybody? It's kind of a balanced rotation, Frank, when you when you put it into motion for the season to give the guys that it's designed to give days off the most days off possible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's starting to become more of a realistic option instead of just a fantasy talking point, because the more you look at the beginning of the season, the more you think, you know what, giving King and Musgrove a little bit of extra time to ease their way in makes sense. Giving German Marquez, who does have a major league deal, and a guy like Walker Buehler, who doesn't, a little bit of an extended spring training while you're waiting for Griffin Canning, who does have a major league deal, to get back, it does make more sense. And the Padres have so much depth in the bullpen that if someone does go down with an injury, you can call another guy up and possibly even keep them up by the time you make a decision on whether or not you want to keep Marquez or Walker or Buehler or both. So the more you look at it, the more it really, truly does make sense until about that time when Griffin Canning comes back in either the beginning or middle of May.
Yeah, that's where I think that you all of a sudden you have to go into a real rotation, a 5-man rotation.
Yes.
Because every time we bring up this conversation, a lot of baseball traditionalists, which I have been labeled as a baseball traditionalist, by the way, they go, they always like put, they never pitched like this. And I'm not saying do this for the entire season, but to get out of the gate with some of the roster moves you have to make, I think it's a very important decision for the Padres, and I think it impacts how you set up your bullpen. So for me, the 6-man rotation is Pivetta, Musgrove, King, Vazquez, Marquez, Buehler. And then from there, you can build the bullpen. The bullpen doesn't have as many question marks. The top of the lineup shakeup is very interesting, though, as well as the first base and DH battle. Those are other decisions that the Padres have to make before opening day. We'll talk about those when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, Standings Number Sports Station, 97 through the Fan. We talked about the trade deadline a couple of weeks ago. That's over. We talked about the All-Star Weekend giving a little bit of juice. That's over. And now we've got 2 months left, and the league is split into 3 clear lanes. The true contenders, teams trying to convince themselves they're contenders, and teams openly racing to the bottom. We got a massive problem with the tanking in the NBA too, but let's start at the top, Frank.
Yep. The Thunder right now are still the team to beat. They're the projected number 1 seed in the West, projected to get 61 wins this season. Best net rating profile, MVP front runner Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still doing exactly what he was doing last year to get Oklahoma City where he was. And also elite defense anchored by Chet Holmgren have really helped Oklahoma City stay on that perch that they were at last year.
And their biggest threat right now is the Denver Nuggets. If healthy, Nikola Jokic and a deeper supporting cast makes Denver the most dangerous postseason matchup for the Thunder. And they have already pushed Oklahoma City to 7 last year. So they're going to be another threat in the Western Conference for sure if they can remain healthy. But here's the key. Oklahoma City feels younger. They feel faster. They just feel hungrier. And SGA is playing like a guy who wants to remove all doubt in that MVP race.
Yeah, it's just because they won the championship last year, they're not saying, okay, well, we got ours, so let's go and have fun. No, they are fighting for a second one. They are going for back-to-back. And for an organization that's been kind of in the middle of nowhere ever since Durant and Harden in that era, they've really come back, and they've come back with a fury.
And we're going to talk about that MVP watch in just a second, but let's talk about the East first. The East is more interesting than you think. Everyone assumed this would be a 2-team conference. It's not. Detroit has the best record and Coach of the Year favorite in JB Bickerstaff. Cleveland Cavaliers added James Harden and are surging. Boston Celtics are surviving without Jason Tatum. And the New York Knicks, your New York Knicks, hanging around the 2-3 seed mix. Wild card Boston. Tatum comes back at even 80%. Their shooting profile makes him terrifying. They don't need him to be Superman. They need him to defend and space. But this is a fun race here in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and Cleveland is fascinating as well, because this dynamic with Harden and Donovan Mitchell either raises their ceiling or recreates just old playoff trauma. And we thought at the trade deadline that it would be the latter of those two. But with the way that Cleveland has really turned it around ever since they got James Harden, it may actually be the former in this case.
Second half kind of preview after this little bit of a break at the All-Star break was the MVP watch. SGA, Jokic, is that it? Again, shaping up to be another SGA versus Jokic battle. SGA, 32 points per game, 67% true shooting, number 1 seed impact. And for Jokic, it's leading the league in rebounds and assists, historic advanced metrics. Missed games may cost Jokic in the entire MVP discussion, but voter fatigue could matter. Narrative could matter. Health will definitely matter. If Oklahoma City locks up the number 1 seed by a wide margin, I'd be hard pressed to give it to anybody besides SGA.
Yeah, I think Gilgeous-Alexander probably does end up with it no matter what. Jokic has been very, very good this season, has missed a little bit of time, but when you're the number 1 player on the number 1 seed in the number 1 team in basketball, it's kind of hard to pick away from him.
The tanking problem. Most uncomfortable truth about the NBA right now. The most intense competition is at the bottom. It's Utah, already fined for lineup manipulation. It's Washington and the Brooklyn Nets openly rebuilding. It's the Memphis Grizzlies who have made moves that scream lottery positioning. And Adam Silver has floated a lot of different ideas out there. We've talked about some of those ideas, but flattening lottery odds, heavy fines, stripping picks. The honesty here is they might have to do something. They have to do something, and they might have to do one, if not multiple of these things, because right now the bottom 8 teams are playing a different game than the top 8.
Yeah. Now, and it is a problem. Okay. So it is definitely an issue, but a lot of this was brought on by one of the stories that we had in the sports thread last week, that gambling companies calling into the NBA office saying, hey, you guys, by allowing these guys to do what they're doing, is messing with us. So a lot of this
the
is
load
not
management.
Yeah, it's not necessarily spurred on by, okay, the NBA, we got to do something about these teams that are clearly not trying to win. There is some
It's going to be playing the Midday Sports Standoff in just a little bit. If you call in and take me down to some sports trivia, you will be qualified for a chance at our weekly giveaway. It's a weekly grand prize now. So if you can call in and take me down to some sports trivia, you would be qualified for a chance to win our weekly grand prize, a pair of tickets to Guns N' Roses at Snapdragon Stadium on September 2nd. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Frank, let's talk more about the offensive side of things for the Padres. We talked about the starting rotation and the bullpen a little bit, but it's interesting the top of the lineup shakeup that you have gotten, or we have gotten, from the Padres for their stars. It's been Xander Bogaerts. It's been Jackson Merrill. It's been Manny Machado. It's been Fernando Tatis Jr. Major departure from the 2025 usage, where Tatis previously hit leadoff most of the season. Merrill often hit cleanup, and Bogarts hit lower in the order. Stammen says nothing is finalized, but the philosophy shift is table setter at shortstop, power deeper in the lineup. And I don't really mind this lineup too much. I'm still a big advocate for trying to get your best player up as many times as possible with Fernando at the top of the order. And for people that have said that, well, he's definitely not going to bat leadoff now because he's not doing it now. I will say that he wasn't really batting leadoff in spring training last year, and he ended up doing it opening day. So who knows about that? But if you're not going to bat Fernando leadoff, I think Xander Bogaerts isn't that bad of an option. He's going to steal bases. He's going to get on base. He does do a pretty good job of finding ways to get on base. And then Jackson Merrill with some youth right behind him. Manny Machado 3. Fernando getting that protection and protecting Manny in the 3-4 spot. I like the way things are working out in terms of this lineup. I could see the Padres using this for the first couple of weeks of the season to see how it works.
Yeah, and I like the top 4 that's out today. It's Xander, Jackson, Manny, and Fernando. I like that quite a bit. And I have a feeling that if that is the case, that is going to be the top 4. I think that's the best order to have them in. I think if you're not going to have Xander lead off, he's probably going to bat 5th or 6th, would be my guess. Possibly 5th with Laureano going 4. It's the bottom of the order. I think that the Padres need to really sort out who they want to have and where. I think, but I like the top 4 the way it's constructed today, at least.
So do I. I think it's I like it a lot. The bottom half. There's a lot of things at the bottom too that I don't mind. And the other thing, and the one that we haven't seen yet, and I'd be curious to see how it goes, is Jake Cronenworth batting 9th.
Yes.
I'd like to see Jake Cronenworth bat 9th. I'd like to, because he's a guy that gets on base. It's like having a second leadoff guy. I mean, if he's going to bat like 7, 8, or 9, what does it matter if he bats 9 or 7?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to have Freddie Fermin down there. I'd rather have Freddie Fermin bat 8. And then it's going to be either him or, a Castellanos or a Sheets or an Andujar at 7. I'd rather have Cronenworth bat 9 where I can use him to an advantage of getting somebody on at the top of the order. I mean, Cronenworth's going to have that protection at the bottom with Xander and all the other big dogs coming up at the top 4 spots. I think that would be pretty good for the Padres. I really would.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him as a middle of the order hitter. Speaking of Jake, so it would either be right at the very top or right at the very bottom. So, and I think having him 9, like I said, with my lineup, I would have with Xander, Merrill, Machado, Xander, Laureano, the switch between Andujar and Sheets. Laureano, Castellanos, the switch between Andujar and Sheets, Fermin, and Cronenworth. That's what I would do with the lineup.
You had Xander Bogaerts lead off today. What did he do? He walked.
And
he's going to walk.
Well, and he also struck out, but
who cares? He walked to get things going.
He did walk. Yes, they have the bases loaded right now in the top of the 3rd, 1 out, and somebody who hit a grand slam up.
Nice. Merrill flew out. Manny flew out. Fernando grounded out in their first time through. Top of the 2nd, Cronenworth strikeout, Andujar line out, Laureano ground out, and then in the 3rd, it's the bottom of the order doing some stuff. Single by Sungmoon Song. Luis Camposado worked a walk. Xander with the strikeout with 2 guys on, and Merrill works a walk to load the bases with 1 out for Manny Machado. I mean, that's kind of how it plays out down there at the bottom of the order.
You had asked, he got that hit, Sungmoon Song did, on an 89.7 mile an hour slider. First 3 pitches of the at bat, 96 fastball, called strike, 97 fastball, ball, 96 swinging strike. Then fouled off an 85 and then got a hit on a 90.
See, again, when it comes to spring training results, I don't care about the results as much as the process. I want to see how Sungmoon Song does against higher velocity, because that's what he's working on. That's what they're trying to get him up to. And until he starts doing that on a regular basis, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays out. I mean, he got a hit, but
oh boy, we got in play runs
Why don't you just throw it on your headset? See what it says. Ah, sack fly.
Well, no, it's already happened by now.
It's true. We get heard what. Yeah, he's already breaking down the Jesse and Tony already talking about the next at bat with Fernando up. Probably halfway through that at bat now.
Let's see where they are actually.
1-0 Padres. You just can't put it over the air, otherwise we'll get
obviously,
serious trouble. Where are they at, Frank? Make sure you don't disseminate.
They're in a commercial break.
They could have had a pitching change.
It very well could have been a pitching change.
It is because there's a mound visit. They're doing a pitching change.
Okay, yes, they are. Ryan Miller in to replace Juan Mejia. Yes.
There you go. Back to the lineup. I think regardless of what you do with the top four, those are your top four, right? I mean, you might have some situations where you're not going to have like Bogarts bat third or four. So he's probably one or two. And, or maybe he bats four. He's not going to bat second because it's mental and he can't bat second, according to, I don't know what it is. They asked him about it when he first came over to the Padres. Like, I don't know what it is about batting second. I just don't do well batting second. So there might be a couple of those niches in there, but I think those four are going to be at the top of the batting order. And then maybe it's Laureano 5 to start things up again. Or maybe it's, Gavin Sheets for more pop or Nick Castellanos, whatever it may be. I agree with you, Frank. I think the bottom half is going to be more interesting than what they do with the top half of the order because you already know the four players are going to be in that top four. Let's talk about first base and the DH battle. There are two everyday spots open, first base and DH. Gavin Sheets is a strong favorite for right-handers, and competing bats are Nick Castellanos, Miguel Andujar, and Ty France, who is the best defender of the group. Sungmoon Song offers left-handed versatility, offensive upside versus defensive stability decision coming at first base in the DH battle. And this is another battle that's going to be fun to watch through the rest of camp. And the other thing, too, is all of those players, none of them are in the WBC.
Correct.
So you're going to see these guys a lot. And they're going to be playing in different spots. Or they're going to be trading off being the DH, being first. I'm curious if they give any reps to Castellanos in the outfield in these spring training games. I'm curious if they're going to do anything for Miguel Andujar in the outfield for spring training games. Some of that stuff. But when you look at the battle for first base and DH, these are all guys that you kind of want part of the organization. And you kind of want part of the group at first base and DH. I mean, this is the conversation of who doesn't make the team. And when you look at Castellanos, Andujar, France, and Sheets, I kind of want all four of those guys part of this roster. But unless you have Sungmoon Song start in AAA or Bryce Johnson doesn't make the team, one of those individuals is not making this team to play first base or be in the DH battle.
Yeah, and I think I would probably say Ty France might. It depends on, like you said, whether or not Sungmoon Song is up there. If Sungmoon Song starts in the minor leagues, I would have to assume that Ty France is going to be the one that comes up. But it's still so early to tell. Like I said, next week and the week after are really the make or break weeks for a lot of those guys who are bouncing between spots in spring training.
And I think right now, I would agree with you that Ty France is currently the odd man out. He's going to have to outplay his way onto the lineup, onto the roster and into the lineup. And he's got to do it better than guys that have options and better than guys that, have more things going for him in terms of roster construction than anything else.
Yes, agreed.
In terms of the bullpen and the bullpen construction, this is also an interesting topic because Mason Miller is going to be the closer. And then after that, you know who your high leverage guys are. Adrian Morejon, Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam when healthy, which he will be at some point during the season. And then you got the guys that are likely part of this bullpen, David Morgan and Wandy Peralta. The uncertainty is Yuki Matsui, who has health concerns, obviously has withdrawn They withdrew him from the WBC. And then you have other candidates, Kyle Hart, Brian Hoeing, Bradley Rodriguez, Alec Jacob, Ron Marinaccio. The bullpen size is dependent on the rotation decision. And if they go with a 6-man rotation, you have 7 spots in the bullpen, and 6 of them are already taken by for sure players in that bullpen. And the only uncertainty to make it a spot open for the 7th spot is Yuki Matsui. Now, if Jason Adam starts the season on the injured list too, that's also something that's interesting to play out. But Yuki Matsui most likely gets started on the injured list. That means Kyle Hart, Brian Hoeing, Bradley Rodriguez, Alec Jacob, Ron Marinaccio, all battling for one spot. Some of them have options, some of them don't, Frank.
We do have a question actually on the bullpen and starting rotation waiting on the line.
Right? Oh, interesting. Let's get out to Eric in Chula Vista, wants to weigh in on the pitching staff. Eric, what's going on, man?
Hi, guys. Good afternoon. How you doing?
Doing well.
Good. I just the fact that Matsui is injured and it's a groin and sometimes that lingers. I heard on either your show or one of the other shows how somebody had mentioned that Buehler and Marquez still have quite a bit in the tank. What are the chances of Matsui's injury lingering even longer, putting Vasquez in the bullpen as a long guy, and then just staying with the 5-man rotation, having Marquez and Buehler as 4 and 5? Because, I mean, I like Vasquez as a starter. He might have been our most consistent starter last year. And I'm not sure what kind of options he has going forward as far as having to make the roster or whatever. But, I mean, I'd like to keep him on there. And, I mean, like I say, with Matsui's injury, you never know how long that's going to last. So thanks, guys. Have a good day.
I appreciate that, Eric. They have had conversations about one of those veteran arms maybe going to the bullpen. I don't necessarily think with all the time and investment that they put in Randy Vasquez to be a starter, that he starts the season in the bullpen.
No.
Because he's a young, controllable piece that you're going to have and you want him to be a top. You want him to work his way to be a 3 starter, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's the type of player that you want to keep in the organization that offsets some of the costs of running this team. And from that perspective, I don't think you can do that to a guy like Randy. But to Eric's point, that is another question that has been brought up at camp. Could it be Marquez? Could it be Walker Buehler? That is a long relief guy in the bullpen. That way you keep the 5-man rotation. But the reality is it's kind of the same thing though, isn't it? Because it's a 6. What you're doing is your long relief guy, you're just starting.
Okay, you're throwing
he's just guaranteed to get a start. If one of those options is going to be a long relief guy, you're basically going with a 6-man rotation anyway, just he's not guaranteed to start a game. But it's basically the same thing. The only difference is instead of like having Randy Vasquez sit a bunch of days and only throw a couple of innings, he goes out there and is guaranteed to start the game. But I guess you could do that, as I now think to myself about how you would handle that. I mean, let's take it from the perspective. Like, does Randy Vasquez have to physically start the game to have it count? I mean, if Randy Vasquez, if you go with an opener from the bullpen the day that he starts and he goes in the middle for 5 innings, I mean, he's still getting the innings he wants. He could be considered part of the bullpen. But then you have a bullpen day added to the 5-man rotation, and then you're back to a 6-man rotation again.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other when it comes to this conversation of what 13 pitchers make the team, essentially. So if we're just talking about, if we think those 6 starters make the team, regardless if there's a 6-man rotation or not, you still have one open spot. It's Hart, it's Hoeing, it's Bradley Rodriguez, it's Alec Jacob, it's Rod Marinaccio for the final part of that bullpen. And that's only until Yuki Matsui comes back, unless he is on the 60-day injured list. Remember, if he doesn't start on the 60-day injured list, that doesn't open up a spot on the 40-man roster. You still have to make decisions on the 40-man roster if Yuki Matsui starts on the 15-day IL. The only way that an injured player affects the 40-man roster is if they get put on the 60-day IL. So unless that's the case, then you still have to make this. I would bet that Yuki Matsui is probably on the 60-day IL at the beginning of the season. And I honestly think it's just to try to keep as many players in his organization as possible. How is Randy Vasquez doing, by the way? We'll keep you updated when we come back. 1 o'clock hour, final hour of the Braden Surprenant Show. We're going to dive into some Aztec basketball. We're going to talk about San Diego FC, more Padres questions, and an update on their game against the Rockies when we come back. Final hour on a Friday. A hot one. It's hot outside. It's nice and cool in here, but it's hot outside. Let me tell you, 89 degrees. Lord. What day is it?
February 27th.
That was probably the warmest February we've had in a long time. February is usually very depressing looking outside. After January is usually like this. Can't wait for all the rain in March around my birthday. It's always great.
6 more weeks of winter. Yay.
Puxatawny Phil, man, sucks. He has not been accurate. Plus, in San Diego, it's like, all right, dude, really?
Why are we listening to a beaver anyway?
He's a groundhog.
That's what I said. Why are we listening to a rodent?
We should be listening to a wildcat. Who reminds me, it's time for today's biggest fan. Congratulations.
Yay. Biggest fan. Yay.
What is that a tissue?
Yes, it is.
Are you crying?
I was going to wipe my nose, but
oh, okay.
I figured I'd use
Go ahead
it
and do
for
that
a
on
bit.
camera. That's great. I'm sure everyone else. Did you show your casings off yet, or did they subscribe to the channel?
No, there's been no new memberships.
We picked up like 8 subscribers today. Maybe he's
That's
one of them.
cool. Natural casings come with memberships, though.
Okay, congratulations to today's biggest fan, Paul Taylor in San Diego. Paul Taylor in San Diego. Give us a call within the next 10 minutes at 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973, and you'll qualify for our grand prize, 20 tickets for you and your friends for our night in our Odyssey suite at a Padres game with all the fan staff. All the fan staff later this season, catered by Spiro's Mediterranean Cuisine. Remember to register your name at 97through-thefantasy.com/biggest fan. Paul Taylor in San Diego. You got 10 minutes. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. If you call in, you will qualify for our grand prize, 20 tickets for you and your friends for a night in our Odyssey suite at a Padres game with all the fan staff later this season. If you want to hear your name called, you can still register at 97through-thefantasy.com/biggest fan. There it is. Talk about Johnny Brito now. Wrong Taylor. Anyway, let's get to what we wanted to talk about. Update on Randy Vasquez. How did Randy Vasquez do today?
Randy Vasquez.
They got out of the inning too, right? So
Yes,
he's done. He's officially done for the day.
Yes, Randy Vasquez is his line. 2 2/3 innings, no hits, no runs, no earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. Ron Marinaccio came in to face Ezekiel Tovar and down by way of the K.
We need to play some Italian music every time he does something well. Hopefully he makes the team.
Ron, make the team, please.
Okay, let's not get too stereotypical Italian here.
Why not? We can embrace the stereotypes for us. I love it. Viva la Italia. You can be locked in all the Italy games. You should.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be.
Absolutely.
Have to be. It's a great outing from Randy. That's 2 good outings out of Randy Vasquez.
It is.
In spring training. I'm trying to say, what was his other outing he had?
Vasquez's previous outing.
Here, he started 2 games. He's gone 4 2/3. He's only allowed 1 hit. He has thrown 68 pitches in spring training so far. Pretty good. Opponent's batting average is .067 against Randy. He has 5 punch-outs, 3 walks, and he's got a 0.86 whip. Good start. Good start to spring training. Good start to spring training.
I would say so, yes. Against a 5-2 Rocky team. They're hot.
You know what? They're trying. They want the TVs, man.
They are hot.
They want the TVs. Let's get out to some of the phone calls. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Ron in La Mesa. Ron, what's going on, man?
Hey, guys. Well, happy Friday. Thanks for taking my call here. Hey, so since it's Friday and you guys are almost ready to celebrate your first year anniversary, I thought I'd do a little retrospect here because I'm a little homer because I really enjoy your guys' show. You two are very entertaining. Not that the other 97.3, the fan hosts, aren't, but I appreciate you guys because you take calls, you talk great sports, and then you've got Frank in there that talks stuff about New York and whatever, and I can come in here and talk about K-State. Very few programs do that. But after yesterday, I'm a little concerned because you've almost got a year like weddings go or marriages go. The first year's honeymoon. But yesterday, Frank, dude, calling the guy a goober today, and I think we need marriage counseling for you two going forward into the second year. I'm concerned, but Frank, I love your takes. You guys do a great job. More of you on Saturdays with NASCAR and soccer would make me happy. And just congratulations on your 1 year, guys. And yes, I'm being a homer because I enjoy the heck out of calling this show. So you guys have a good weekend. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Ron. Ron's just trying to, you know what? Ron's trying to butter me up because the K-State Wildcats host the Frogs tomorrow in basketball. He's trying to get the Frogs to take it easy on him. And I'll respond to this, Ron. Kansas State has not had a good basketball year, which means they got a really good chance against TCU tomorrow because that's how that's worked this season. We'll see. They need that game. Our Aztecs need some games tomorrow too.
You've already had, I believe, your 1 year anniversary doing the show.
I have not. No.
Oh, you have not from?
No, March 10th was my first day.
Oh, okay.
Doing this show. I mean, I've already had my 2 year. I mean,
well, yeah,
Sundays.
from having your own show. Yeah, but I thought you had your 1 year for this particular show.
No, not particularly.
Our 1 year together is
summertime, isn't it?
Cinco de Mayo, May 5th.
I couldn't remember if we jumped on before or after went to Italy. I think it was before.
It was before Italy, yeah. So Cinco de Mayo was my first show here. So that's we're about 2 months out from our 1 year anniversary.
We need a certain sponsor to hook us up with a celebration that day. Play the sound bit. Play it.
I'm waiting for the tacos. Where the damn tacos at?
That's right. We do need tacos that day.
I was going to say, unfortunately, we're not sponsored by Mona Lisa's.
You know what? Go down there and ask.
Listen,
you know what? Maybe we should just start going door to door to all the Italian places.
Hey, we could provide some provide some services on the radio for you, help you guys out a little bit.
Call our guy, Peter Schwartz.
Exactly.
He can hook you up with the details. Have your people call our people.
The great guy.
It's great. And whoever else we have over here in the sales staff. Talk to Kevin.
We have to play the highlight from Frank getting lost in Balboa Park. That is something maybe we could do. Because I refuse to delete or save over anything. So I have all the shows that we've done together on here hour by hour. Maybe that is a thing. Maybe we do, like, as we get closer to the 1 year anniversary, like start like finding segments and clips from the 1 year show and putting them together.
That's too much. It's too much. Unless you want to make it a podcast form.
Yeah,
You could do podcast only.
Put it in a
like Scraby's 12 games of October, whatever it was. Yeah. Oh, all right.
Yeah, maybe not for a show.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that for a show. No, of course not.
No, but for like an omnibus podcast, that'd be pretty cool, I think.
Ron Marinaccio, coverage brought to you by Midco Toilet. Oh man, that's good stuff. All right, let's talk about what we wanted to talk about during the segment, and it's college basketball related. So, Aztecs are in action tomorrow. This is a must-win game for them. This is you win this game, you might be the tournament. Your odds of getting in drastically increase if you go to the pit and beat San Diego State. Absolutely need it. Absolutely need it. So, here's a look at the bracketology snapshot. Joel already had this today, and he puts out his reports too. Like, he had the bracketology thing. He's got, whatever. San Diego State's like a 10 seed or something like that. But San Diego State is currently the automatic qualifier for the Mountain West because they're in first place in the Mountain West. That is so what he does is he assumes that whoever is the number one team in the conference is going to win said conference championship. Follow so far? So he has, and take it for a grain of salt. Everybody's got their own. There's 185 people that do brackets. We use Joe Lenardi because the guy's kind of the OG with the bracketology stuff. He's got San Diego State in as a automatic qualifier. He's got New Mexico as a first four out, and he lists early bracket games in terms of like games that have the most impact tomorrow. San Diego State at New Mexico, 2:00 Eastern. He's got Aztecs as 11 seed, and then New Mexico at first four out as mentioned. It goes as a excerpt on that game. Only the winner has a shot at being in our bracket next week. That's everything you need to know right there about how important this game is. Lenardi notes a lot of potential bracketing nightmares brewing in the SEC. There's going to be multiple bubble teams right now that sit clustered together near the cut line, and we all know how that plays out, don't we, Frank? When it comes to the SEC.
Yep.
Auburn has no business being in the NCAA tournament. I'm just going to say that right now, but they have them as a last four in team. They're like 15-13 this year.
You forget though.
What do I?
The SEC is undefeated in hypothetical scenarios.
That's also true. That is now leaked into basketball.
You cannot forget that.
That is now leaked into basketball. If you look at what Auburn has done this year, I know they've probably beaten some good teams, but just it's just kind of a joke where they're at. Auburn plays tomorrow. They play Ole Miss. They're 15-13. They're 6-9 in the SEC, and that is who we want in the NCAA tournament. We want more teams like that and less teams like Santa Clara. Are you kidding me? Give me a break. Here are all of the teams that should be in that are above the cut line that are not guaranteed. Like the guarantees are already the guarantees, but this is the should be in group. Kentucky, Georgia, Missouri, Texas A&M, Iowa, UCLA out of the Big Ten, SMU, Miami, Clemson out of the ACC, UCF out of the Big 12, and then in the mid-majors, St. Mary's and St. Louis. These are all bubble teams that are, more than a 50% chance of making the NCAA tournament. Really more of a 60% chance of making the NCAA tournament. The SEC's got a lot of congestion. Obviously, it's very real. Georgia, Missouri, A&M, and Kentucky are tightly packed in resume quality. Lenardi has 4 SEC teams among the last 4 buys. UCLA has surged late. Big wins over Illinois and USC has pushed them towards the 90% plus at-large odds. UCF may be under-discussed nationally, but their resume is top 30, 97% at-large odds. And the St. Mary's Gonzaga rematch looms large and could solidify a West Coast Conference 2-bid safety, who are trying to get 3 teams in with Santa Clara. Clemson starting to free fall a little bit. 4 straight losses have knocked him off a lock status, which is usually hard to do. When you're a lock, that means you're getting in the tournament. It's not anything else. In terms of teams that still have work to do, these are the schools now. Aztec fans, pay attention. Pay close attention to this. These are the schools I'm about to talk about. These are the schools with a couple of weeks to go you need to lose. Except for TCU, because that is going to be a biased thing for me. Do not root for them to lose. Root for everybody else to lose. Does that seem fair? I think that's fair. Okay, moving on. These are the teams that you want to lose. Last 4 buys. These teams are in, but close to the first 4 out. Georgia, Missouri, Texas A&M, Texas. You want all 4 of those SEC teams to lose. In fact, I have their schedule. Texas and A&M play each other. You want one of those. You want that game to be a blowout in either fashion. You're rooting against Missouri tomorrow. Missouri's at Mississippi State, who's not very good. But you know what? You're rooting for Mississippi State tomorrow. And then Georgia, they got South Carolina, who also sucks at basketball. You need South Carolina to pull an upset on the road in Athens. Last 4 in, and these guys are barely in. Auburn. They don't even deserve to be in. I digress on that. If you're an Aztec fan, you're rooting for Ole Miss at Auburn tomorrow. TCU's got Kansas State. You don't need to root against TCU. They usually shoot themselves in their own foot. So you know what? Just kind of wait for them to do their own thing.
They got 4 feet and they're really tiny, so that's a pretty good shot.
I know. They're very accurate when it comes to shooting themselves in the foot. Santa Clara is another team. Santa Clara has a tough matchup. They have tough matchups to finish, but they're going to get into Saturday's the last day of the West Coast Conference before they start tournament play. And they will start tournament play next week in Vegas with games on Thursday. And then they have the bracket where it goes, you get a bye for every seed you get. Santa Clara's got a red hot Oregon State team who just fired their coach. Take that for what it's worth. That game will be at 5:00 on Saturday. First four out: Cal, New Mexico, Ohio State, USC. You need those teams to lose. Next four out: Virginia Commonwealth, Virginia Tech, Seton Hall, Cincinnati. If you start looking at the cross-conference bubble comparison, the SEC is the logjam conference. They have the most quad one opportunities and the most opportunities to eliminate each other. They could cannibalize their bids, and they can be down to 8 or balloon to 11 based on how these things go. In the Big Ten, it's resume versus record debate. Indiana's the last team in. Ohio State's part of the first four out. USC sliding fast. And again, to notice, Ohio State 1-10 in quad one games. Indiana, better predictive metrics than resume. USC is outside the top 50 in predictive measurements, which is a very tough sell. And that leads to the Mountain West. A 2-bid or a 3-bid league. Aztecs, last four in. If they weren't an automatic qualifier, New Mexico is the first four out. Head-to-head rematch looms large. If the Mountain West only gets 2 teams in, one of these 2 schools is out because Utah State's a lock. You can't, if you're the Aztecs, lose on Saturday and force the hand of the committee. Make it simple. Go 2-0 against New Mexico in the regular season. Have the win at the pit. That helps you out. That's going to boost your chances a little bit more. It's under 30% chance for the Aztecs to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large team before Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it was. After beating Utah State, that's jumped up to almost a 50-50 chance. You beat New Mexico on the road, you're going to be in a really good spot. West Coast Conference, can it get 3 teams in? Santa Clara is the last 4 in. St. Mary should be in. Gonzaga is a lock. Committee historically resists 3 bids from the West Coast Conference. That could bode well for the Aztecs. And if you look at the ACC, they have a very soft middle with teams like Cal and Virginia Tech chasing a bid and SMU, Miami, and Clemson above the line. ACC projected to get 8 bids, but that margin is razor thin. Based on everything that I told you, Frank, what's the biggest takeaway from this for the Aztecs?
Win the game.
You better win tomorrow if you want to be in the NCAA tournament and not have to sweat out Vegas. I know we've been saying that a lot, but this is the stretch. You're already 1-0. You got to go 2-0 over the next 2 games at New Mexico, at Boise State. All of a sudden, you could stop sweating the Mountain West tournament as much. At least get to the semis, and you're probably in. That's what you need to know about San Diego State. What do you need to know about San Diego FC? They're in action again this weekend. They play Sunday. Off to a great start to the year. We'll break it down when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's number 1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. If you blinked this weekend, you probably missed a lot in local San Diego high school sports. Open Division basketball statement wins, wrestling, Masters drama, water polo, dynasties continuing, and spring sports officially underway. San Diego high school sports isn't just busy right now. It's defining who owns February and who's about to own the spring. And let's start in Solana Beach. I'll start with the boys basketball, and Frank's going to jump in with the girls basketball here. But Santa Fe Christian sends a message in front of a packed gym. Santa Fe Christian runs away from Cathedral Catholic High School, 82-53 in the Open Division quarterfinals. And once again, it was a haul. Dax Hall. He dropped 35 points, hitting from everywhere. Earlier this year, he had 42 against Cathedral. They just could not solve the Hall equation in the playoffs. Eagles hit 12 threes, only 4 turnovers, complete control. And now they host Francis Parker in the semifinals, and that feels like a de facto championship game because remember, Santa Fe Christian only has a couple of losses on the year. 2 of them are to Francis Parker. All 8 open teams do advance to the state regional, so it's not survive and advance. It's about seeding and momentum, and right now Santa Fe Christian looks like the most explosive team left. Should be a fun one against Francis Parker. Frank, what's going on in women's basketball?
Meanwhile, in San Marcos, 2-time defending champs Mission Hills survived a war with La Jolla County Day School, 53-46 game, tied 36-36. going into the fourth quarter. Freshman Maya Atkinson, averaging under 6 a game, scored 9 in the fourth quarter. She kept telling her coach all day, I'm ready for this. She absolutely was. Mission Hills hit 10 threes. La Jolla Country Day hit 3. That was the difference. Now Mission Hills heads to top-seeded Francis Parker. But here's what stood out. The open division on the girls' side might be deeper than we had expected because there were 2 big upsets. Grossmont knocked out Mater Dei Catholic, and Westview beat Cathedral Catholic. Now the bracket finds itself wide open.
Let's talk about wrestling. We talk about wrestling, usually talking about Poway. At Masters, Poway High School reminded everyone who the standard is. The Titans advanced all 14 wrestlers to the finals. They won 10. They scored over 400 team points. That's dominance. But one of the best stories came from Imperial High School. On his birthday, Noah Larios won his first Masters title at heavyweight, pinning his opponent with a 76-pound weight advantage and capping a steady climb from third to second to champion. Progression, development, also worth watching. Freshman battle at 106 between Granite Hills and Poway. That rivalry might define the next 4 years. State is coming in San Diego. We'll send some real contenders to the state level in wrestling. But girls water polo was finishing up some CIF championship games.
You said a 76-pound weight advantage?
Yeah, he did pretty good upset right there.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? To the pool, the Bishop School won its eighth consecutive Open Division title, 15th in 16 years, 8 straight. That is not just winning, that is institutional dominance. Meanwhile, Helix High School captured its first D1 title behind a 15-save performance in goal. Coronado, Scripps Ranch, new champions, new energy, water polo depth. See what I did there? In this section keeps growing.
Spring is here. We talked about lacrosse last week. We talked about track and field the week before. We're going to get to baseball and softball soon, but it's time for volleyball. Beach for the girls and indoor for the boys. Beach volleyball opened a couple of weeks ago with scrimmages, and guess who's chasing another one? That'd be Cathedral Catholic. The Dons have won all 3 Open Division titles since CIF sanctioned the sport. My heart might not be with the Dons as much as it might be with the Scripps Ranch Falcons. But anyway, Torrey Pines is chasing. Point Loma is loaded. La Jolla Beach Classic is coming up. And again, if you want to look at some of the big players, Scripps Ranch returns a lot of great players from last year's team that just won a D1 indoor championship. Right now, I'm looking at Torrey, Point Loma, Scripps Ranch, Cathedral Catholic on the open side. The Falcons of Scripps Ranch made it to the Open Division last season, so we'll see what Coach Byrne has in store for the Falcons over there at Scripps Ranch. I'm looking forward to seeing how they play. But on the indoor side, Cathedral has won the Open Division. Torrey Pines, Carlsbad, 3 different Open champs the last 3 years. Could someone new break through? Torrey Pines stacked again. Francis Parker has a 6'11" junior and Kevin O'Brien. Bishops is deep. Spring might not have a clear king, and that makes it fun. Seems like it's pretty much wide open for the indoor for the boys, and everybody's chasing the Dons for beach volleyball. That's our look at the high school update for you. We'll mention softball and baseball next week. Broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios, we know how. We're going to have Drake Hills coming up to finish up the show. But before we talk to Drake about soccer, let's talk about soccer amongst ourselves. Frank, we like to talk about San Diego FC here. They got a game coming up on Sunday, March 1st. But the big talking point with San Diego FC, inaugural season wasn't just successful, it was a historic one. And now the grace period is gone. In year 1, San Diego FC set MLS expansion records, 19 wins, 63 points, number 1 seed in the West, Western Conference final appearance, elite home attendance, top 4 in attendance in the MLS. They were a fun new club, the fearless press, the beach party with bites. Now they're expected to win a trophy. And there's some big themes entering 2026. And I know the season has already started, Frank, but let's go through some of these themes because it's still early on in the season. And number one, expansion hangover or legit contender. Will there be a sophomore slump for San Diego FC?
If you watch that game last Saturday night, there ain't no such thing as a hangover for this team. No shot.
That was against one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference.
Right, but you were in a situation where you had them, you were already up 2-0 when they got the red card. There was just equally a chance you could have just rolled over and just sat on that 2-goal lead, even with them down to 10 men. They did not. They pressed the attack more, and like I said, it looked like they were actively toying with Montreal on Saturday night. So it's only one game. It's one game into the season, but this team doesn't look like they're going to have any sort of slump whatsoever.
Yeah, so far so good, but that's still a question for a team that's coming off expansion, especially with a lot of the teams out there that have been very successful in their expansion years into their sophomore year. I mean, they got a stable infrastructure, core roster continuity is strong, Western Conference top 4 finish, realistic, I think, for San Diego FC. MLS parity pushes some complacency, but reality is this is a team that I think is going to be able to shift from the great story to being able to prove it again.
Yeah, and they've also gotten their core on lockdown. They extended Anders Dreyer. They kept Mikey Varas. They've kept Tyler Heaps. They just re-signed Luca Bombino a couple days ago. So he's locked in now. They got Amal Pellegrino, I believe, on a multi-year deal. So they are set. They've got the foundation that made them successful last year. They are locked in here. They are genuine. They have a target on their back now. They know that they are going to be one of the better. They are one of the better teams in the league, and they're doing it in a way that Inter Miami and LAFC have not done it, which is buying some of the best players in the world, buying some of the biggest names in the world, and they were a game away from making the MLS Cup final last year.
Another theme, Champions Cup balancing act, right? They qualified for the Champions Cup. They faced Toluca in the round of 16 after beating Pumas Unum 4-2 on aggregate. CONCACAF travel, little extra. They got to go extra travel here in the first couple months of the season. It's obviously not ideal. It's really brutal. Liga MX's intensity. It's a different level of soccer. Squad rotation, inevitable. If the MLS form dips in March or April, this could be why, because it's tough at the beginning part of the year. But on the flip side, Frank, if they compete with all these teams in Liga MX and some of the champions in that league, that elevates credibility league wide for them to really be a massive threat in the MLS.
Yeah, and this is what we discussed earlier on, is to how much priority do you put on the CONCACAF Champions Cup as compared to the MLS Cup, because you can put all of your eggs into one basket. You don't have to split between the two. I know Juan Ruiz loves to make fun of me now that a Norwegian team knocked off Inter Milan, and
not great, Bob.
Yeah, no, it was not great. But they have a 10-point lead in Serie A, so they're putting all of their eggs in the Serie A, Coppa Italia, the domestic front. They're putting all their eggs in that. So now this is going to be the interesting balancing act, whether or not San Diego FC wants to focus on Champions Cup, if they want to focus on MLS, or if they want to see if they can spread out as thin as they can go and try to make a run deep in both. There are teams that are deep enough and are good enough to do that. It's right now, it's depending upon what San Diego FC's priority is.
Anders Dreyer, can he do it again? I mean, in 2025, 19 goals, 18 assists, MVP runner-up, joined Messi as only players with 17-plus goals and assists in MLS history. Now, for Anders Dreyer, in year 2, defensive game plans built around him. No Lozano to draw attention. Miami's Messi and LAFC's Sung Hong Min favored for MVP. Even if the numbers dip, his chance creation and versatility still scream elite. But can he do it again? That's another big question. I think he can.
How many assists did he have?
18.
In last week?
I don't remember off the top of my head. 2. I think he had 2 or 3, didn't he?
He had 2. And had the shot that
Pellegrino knocked in counted as an assist, he would have had 3. I have no doubt in my mind that Dreyer is the real deal and that Anders Dreyer will 100%. He may not put up exactly the same season, but he has a very, very good chance of putting up an equal caliber season to what he did last year.
I do want to talk about, we have a couple of minutes that we have to get to, and then we'll get to Drake Hills after the break. But the attack, evolution, and the defense, which is the backbone of this team. Let's start with the attack. Marcus Ingvarsson is almost like a new signing after he comes back from injury because he missed a significant amount of time last year. If he becomes a reliable finisher, Dreyer assist numbers will stay high, as you were talking about, Frank. Offense definitely diversifies a little bit, as we saw with the 5 goals last week, and the team becomes harder to scout. Add on the fact Lewis Morgan, if healthy, Bryce Duke, midfield depth, 5 different scorers in the 5-0 opener versus Montreal. This attack might be deeper than 2025, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things that we had discussed a lot last year, is they played what felt like a false 9 for a lot of the season last year, where it was mostly reliant on the 2 wingers, whether it be Lozano or Pellegrino towards the end of the season and Dreyer on the other side. When Ilosky came in, he really put the emphasis on that striker spot. And now with Ingvarsson in, and with the way at least the first couple of games have gone, it looks as though that emphasis is going to be put on him as a striker. He had a goal. He also had a beautiful assist in the game against Montreal. So that could be a big change. That could also relieve a lot of the pressure from the 2 guys on the wing if they have a guy down the middle that they can go to.
Let's talk about the defense real quick, and we're going to take a break. Backline turnover creates questions, but system discipline and pressing structure drove success last season. If the press slips, defensive cracks show. If the press holds, they stay elite. Defense has been the backbone of this team.
Yes, 100%. And they've put a lot of work in their defense, and that defensive back line is going to be very, very young. Again, as I mentioned earlier, they've already extended Luca Bombino, who's very young. Dua's very young. McVeigh is kind of the anchor there as far as age is concerned. You also have Pilcher, who's going to come off the bench as well. So, I mean, they have a lot of options and youth out of that defensive back line, led by Valakari, who's going to be right up in front of it.
When we come back, we'll ask Drake Hill's opinion about the game coming up on Sunday for San Diego FC as we do our weekly soccer report with Drake Hills on the other side. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Tyler Reddick, not just hot, he's historic. 1 week after winning the Daytona 500, Reddick followed it up with a dramatic double overtime victory in Sunday's Auto Trader 400 at Echo Park Speedway, becoming the first driver in nearly 2 decades to win the first 2 races of a Cup Series season. The last to do it, NASCAR Hall of Famer Matt Kenseth back in 2009.
Yeah, absolutely. Elite company. It's very, very hard to win the Daytona 500 plus the next race that comes up after that. And now that the next race that comes up after that is at a reconfigured Atlanta Motor Speedway, now Echo Park Speedway, that's basically turned into like a shorter, smaller version of Daytona and Talladega, where it is just a crapshoot. It's all about drafting. It's all about being in the right place at the right time and not necessarily how your car is handling. It's even more impressive, honestly, that Reddick has been able to do this. And he did it with damage, too.
Yeah, he started from the pole after qualifying was rained out, led the race best 53 laps, but late in the race, his number 45 Toyota got caught up in a 9-car accident. The right front fender was mangled. The team had to tape the car up in 39-degree weather just to keep it together. And Denny Hamlin, who's part owner of this team, described it as looking like Carnage City. But it didn't matter. On the field, on the final overtime restart, Reddick zigzagged and somehow muscled his way forward, getting a huge push from Joe Gibbs Racing's Chase Briscoe, cleared teammate Bubba Wallace, and held off the field by just 0.164 seconds. 2 races, 2 wins, completely different styles.
Yeah, he was able to control a little bit at Daytona after he got past the big wreck on the final lap, and this time he had to fight from the middle of the field and really work at getting this win. A lot tighter confines around Atlanta Motor Speedway as well. So it's positioning and timing, grit, car control. He's won it all. He's won both races in very different styles this year.
Don't overlook the teamwork angle here either. Daytona, Riley Herbst delivered the key push. At Echo Park, it was Briscoe, another Toyota driver, helping shove Reddick to the front. Meanwhile, Bubba Wallace led for 46 laps and looked poised to win before a late move up the track opened the door for his teammate. He finished 8th, but 23-11 Racing still leaves Atlanta sitting first and second in points, with Reddick holding a 40-point advantage.
Yeah, Reddick is off to an incredible start this year. And Michael Jordan said it best. It's really fun to be a part of 23-11 right now. And just think,
it should be.
He's 3-0 this year. He won the lawsuit against NASCAR. He's won the Daytona 500, and now he's gotten the win at Echo Park. And people still call LeBron James the greatest of all time.
I don't see LeBron James winning NASCAR events, if you will. At Echo Park, 12 cars finished within 1 second of the winner. 9 different leaders led double-digit laps, 14 total leaders overall. The racing was tight. It was chaotic. It was strategic. Drafting mattered. Patterns mattered. And execution mattered. Carson Hocevar made a daring solo move late, but couldn't find drafting help when it mattered most. Ross Chastain finished 3rd. Shane Van Gisbergen scored his best overall finish in 6th after being in 2 separate incidents. But again, the headline belongs to Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, absolutely. He did not just he did not just survive damage. He didn't just capitalize on chaos. He absolutely controlled the moment. And now he's doing something that we have not seen in this sport in 17 years by sweeping the first 2 races of the season.
And coming up next, Frank, it's a trip for the Truck Series to St. Petersburg Street Circuit coming up on February 28th. But what else is on the docket for NASCAR coming up?
Yep. So the St. Petersburg Street Circuit, which is the traditional starting point for the IndyCar Series, they are going to be starting up this weekend as well at St. Pete. This will be NASCAR's first trip to the airport at St. Pete. The Craftsman Truck Series will run there on Saturday, the 28th. That'll be at 9 a.m. on FS1. The O'Reilly Auto Parts Series will be running at Circuit of the Americas on Saturday, on the same day, Saturday the 28th, at 12 p.m. Pacific time. That will be on the CW. The Cup Series will be the next day, will be Sunday from Circuit of the Americas. That'll be a 12:30 p.m. Pacific time start on Fox. But coming up before that, though, will be
the Braden Surprenant show of the week. San Diego FC talk coming your way. We'll get you an update on the Padres game as well. Tied at 1, top of the 6th. As it was a good day for Randy Vasquez. Randy Vasquez, 2 2/3, 2 walks, 4 punch outs. Ron Marinaccio ends up going an inning and a third in relief. He gave up the 1 earned run on 2 hits with a walk and a strikeout. And how about Tristan McKenzie? Good bounce back, Frank. 1 inning, 1 strikeout, 1 walk. Like to see that as some of these guys that are getting opportunities here in these games, and it might get off to a rough start like JP Sears and Tristan McKenzie the first time through. They haven't pitched in a long time. Seeing this improvement is a step in the right direction, as well as the fact that, it's going to take them a little bit of time to put this together. But you like the way you got to like the way Tristan McKenzie bounced back today in his outing.
And it wasn't an immediate, it was an immediate bounce back as well. It wasn't like, okay, here 2 starts later, now we're starting to figure it out. No, it was next outing. He's looking like the Tristan McKenzie that we were hoping that we would see.
And we'll see what he does if he stays in the game.
Yes.
As for the Padres, again, a lot of strikeouts out there today. In fact, top of the 5th inning, Song, Campusano, and Bogart struck out. Bogarts actually took a pitch that was called a ball, and the Rockies challenged it, and then it was overturned to lead to the strikeout.
What a bunch of jerks.
Who uses ABS in spring training?
I know, what a bunch of losers, man.
Where's our guy Johnny? That's like walking in softball. Who walks on league night? Who challenges in spring training? Come on.
What a bunch of weenies, dude.
Come on. Greg Hills doesn't do that.
Doesn't walk in softball or use ABS?
Both.
Oh, well.
Guys, a purist out there. Guys, a purist out there. This is one of the only ones defending Mick Cronin with us. Let's get to Drake Hills.
Are you raising your voice at me?
That's the best clip ever. Do it one more time. I got to hear it one more time.
Are you raising your voice at me?
You know, they've been on a tear since he had that entire thing. Who's the sucking now? All right, let's get to Drake Hills. A contributing writer for Black Players for Change. He also contributes to ESPN.com. He comes on each and every Friday to discuss San Diego FC and other soccer news with us. Drake, what's going on? Happy February, huh? It's the February day out there. It's like 90 degrees in February.
Whoa, Braden, are you raising your voice at me right now? Yeah. I mean, hands down, probably one of the best sound bites that we'll get in college basketball this season. But no, man, it's weird, right? This is middle of the season soccer weather, like not the first couple of weeks of MLS, right? And it's weird. And the weather, I think, obviously, all of that may seem odd, but I do remember things going similarly in terms of the first game of the season going into the second. It wasn't just a year ago where the entire city was on fire because San Diego FC went up to LA Galaxy and said, yeah, last season you guys won MLS Cup. This year is a whole new season. And then there's a new sheriff in the state of California. And obviously, weird again. Who are we going to be seeing? St. Louis. Again, I was at that game last year, home opener. So things are a little weird in terms of it almost feels like we're still in 2025, but I know it's the second year and 5 goals in your first game. That's probably the best way you can start a season.
I do want to ask you, Drake, before we dive deeper into San Diego FC, with some of the listed bidders for the San Diego Padres, 2 of them own soccer teams. And to give us kind of the perspective of what the success is for these teams since these owners have taken over, I just wanted to hear your perspective on it. And the couple of entities for you that are bidding on the Padres are members that own teams in European soccer. One of them being Dan Friedkin, who owns AS Roma and had just bought Everton FC, as well as Jose E. Feliciano, who is a co-owner of Chelsea. Just to give perspective, because we kind of talked about it, but not really, but some perspective on how those clubs are internationally and how they've been since some of these owners have taken over. It seems like they've been moving in the right direction, most notably Everton.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to Everton in a second, but this is for everyone listening to the show right now. If you are a Chelsea fan, you're not allowed to be a Padres fan. Sorry. Todd Bowley is in that ownership group, and we know Todd Bowley equals Dodgers. So you check your books, check the people that you rock with, and make sure your alliances are in the right place. But yeah, so in terms of the multi-sport ownership model, I think it's more so about the marketing of these clubs. Everton is on the brink, or has been on the brink, or historically over the past couple of years, of saying goodbye to what is probably one of the most storied parks, and not only English Premier League, but honestly in Britain and in Europe. So opening a new stadium, I think that it's more so about the growth of the product and finding profit, more so as it is kind of the style in which the way a club is run. I think that's more so, Feliciano and Bowley, and in terms of how Chelsea is run, it's more so about trusting a CEO and a president that's familiar with the Premier League to do so accordingly. And the same thing goes with Everton. And so I don't think there's going to be much of a, I guess you could call it an English Premier League, influence on what the Padres could potentially look like in the next couple of years. Now, I did read Dennis Lynn's report that the Seiler family is reportedly looking at having the sale as sometime around opening day. So, but I don't think you would see at any point that there'd be some sort of English Premier League influence on the baseball club. I will say though that, depending on whose bid is accepted, I will say if Kudla and Breeze get their bid accepted, I've already seen people talking about how fire the Biore merchandise is going to look, and I think the same thing would go if we see, Feliciano and company or maybe it's and Bowley, like maybe there's some cool crossover merch, on a theme night at some point during the next couple of years. But I think that's the extent of it.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is the fact that, Freakin just took over Everton FC, and the latest report, and we just looked this up, so I'm not expecting you to have the knowledge on this, but, he's putting his foot down on trading one of the best players on Everton, and it sounds like they're finally stabilizing money-wise since he bought the team in 2024, which I think is a step in the right direction, is a positive look for Padres fans in the sense of this guy wants to win, and he's acting like he wants to win with the teams that he owns. And then the same thing on the Chelsea side of things. The interesting part is the whole potential, the co-owners of Chelsea owning division rivals in Major League Baseball potentially with that angle.
Yeah, I mean, I think that second point is certainly kind of how kind of crazy that is, right? It's yeah, I mean, I think I'm more entertained by that, especially given that we could have some sort of allegiance crossover or alliances really being tested. As far as the Everton model, I mean, they are, we got to think about it. Everton's in Liverpool, and there's that very thick line between Evertonians and Liverpudlians. If you're a red, you're a red. If you're a blue, you're a blue. So certainly, I think the testing of allegiances would be interesting to see if that ownership group gets their bid accepted.
We're talking about Drake Hills, who is a contributing writer for Black Players for Change, who also does some reports for ESPN.com. Let's talk about San Diego FC. Obviously, they had a big game last time out. They smoked Montreal, who is not one of the better teams in the MLS last year, but a lot of youth for San Diego FC over the last weekend. What was your biggest takeaway from the 5-0 victory?
Yeah, we talked about it a week ago. Just, as great as, Montreal and veteran back to Montreal's defense and their midfield is, they have Canadian national team members. But the reality is that they just don't have any attacking force. We talked about Owusu up front. He was, really kind of one of the guys that isn't worthy of scoring goals, but they don't really have any help. I think, the way that they play in this kind of 4-2-3-1 diamond in the midfield, I think, Burskov, Godoy, Valakari, they were able to kind of pretty much do what they wanted in transition and play San Diego FC soccer. But my goodness, I mean, you have goals coming at all three levels, right? McVay gets it started. Valakari, who I think, along with Burskov, belongs in the All-Star. I know we're still in February, but these are probably the best midfield tandem, one of the best midfield tandems in the Western Conference, if not MLS. And then, of course, I personally love two parts. Ingvartsen finding the back of the net. I think that's big. I was listening to you guys before the break. Being almost like that new signing, like you said, Braden. I think that's the way Ingvartsen should think about this, like, let alone the rest of us. I think he should think about 2026 as his debut year with San Diego FC. I wasn't too surprised with Pellegrino. He's really showed up and stepped up in replacement of Chucky Lozano. But boy, oh boy, remember the name, Brian Zamble out of Abidjan, Ivory Coast. At 18 years old, some days after your 18th birthday, and you're able to score. I mean, that was a beautiful sight, watching him celebrate with the supporters at the back end. And it really a veteran's goal too. Like the way that he was very confident, fake left, dip in right, bottom left corner. Beautiful, beautiful technique. I know it's CF Montreal. They'll probably be in top 3 worst teams in MLS, maybe top 5. But still, to do that, within minutes of debuting, later in the game, and to have that type of decisiveness, it was beautiful from Zamble.
Let's talk about the matchup coming up on Sunday, where St. Louis City FC comes in, and they are going to take on San Diego FC. What are some of the challenges that St. Louis brings to San Diego FC?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, I think it's going to be somewhat of a different game than we saw from last year. I mean, last year we remember we were so distracted by some news coming off the field that it turned out to be kind of a really big stalemate. There really wasn't much to see last year from St. Louis. They sat back. They were pretty much 11 men behind the ball, very, very low block. I mean, their midfield three was essentially on the 18, right outside the penalty box. So, obviously Chucky Lozano goes off with an injury. I think you're going to see a little bit of a different attacking prowess. I think the way that, this is, new manager, João Klaus, he's no longer with the team. He's with Galaxy now. So I think it's, Hartel. I really like Hartel. He's someone who is a little bit more direct. You got to watch out for Lovin as well, Edouard Lovin. But I think the one player that San Diego FC fans should keep an eye on, he could potentially make this game kind of frustrating as Josh Yarrow. I really like him as a young player, but I think it's going to be a matter of, will San Diego FC be able to be as clinical in front of goal? Because I do think they'll get their chances, but can they finish the way they did against a much lesser talented Montreal team? St. Louis is more so, I would say, probably a middle pack, probably middle of MLS. So they're a little bit better. But if San Diego FC can continue to create the way they did as early as they did against Montreal, then this will be an easy 3 points for them at home.
Last thing for you, Drake, before we sign off on a Friday, we kind of briefly talked about it, but how much does San Diego FC have to, do this Champions Cup balancing act where you have to travel during CONCACAF during the first part of the MLS season, playing Liga MX teams during this while you're also competing in the MLS and the schedule that the MLS has? I mean, is this something that, might have the MLS games dip a little bit in terms of their production in the first couple months of the season because of how grueling this grind is in the CONCACAF Champions Cup?
I mean, there's no doubt that you're going to have to be strategic if you're Mikey Varas. But it's not as truncated as it used to be. I mean, I remember, again, we've talked about how just to even get to the second round, you probably had your first round immediately the week before MLS is back, and then the second round was within 10 days after your MLS is back game, your opener. So how truncated it was, I think it's a little bit different. I think it's more MLS heavy this time around than it is Champions Cup heavy. It used to be the Champions League, where, if you're San Diego FC to start the month of March, you're going to have 2 games, right? So you're going up against St. Louis, then you're Kansas City away, then you're Dallas, and then Dallas is even better than St. Louis. So you got 3 games in between the first leg and the second leg of the Champions Cup. So I do think it helps that San Diego FC is going to start just like they did in round 1. They're going to start at home. So to be able to have St. Louis and then of course Kansas City before you have Toluca, I think that's going to be helpful. But the fact that you have Dallas and then you go back and have Toluca again, I don't think it's going to be as much of a test in terms of the schedule, but the actual opponent is going to be the big thing. And we talked about it. It's basically Mexican national team junior at Toluca. So remains to be seen, but I'm excited to watch.
Drake, appreciate the time. Look forward to talking to you next week as we recap San Diego FC. He's Drake Hills. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant signing off for the week. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Quinn and Chris coming up next.